How's it going, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good song.
It's a great song. Great soundtrack. Amazing soundtrack.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about music lately. I definitely think I want to go back to making music.
I never had a strong desire to, and limited attempts just didn't appeal to me. But there's many other things out there.
I think it's kind of like it's easier when you're brought up by somebody, you know?
Yeah.
And here's the problem with that, like
Spend a lot of time with it. Yeah.
like if you're, let's say you're an Asian kid and you get shoved into fucking piano lessons and you actually get good at playing piano and even writing your own chord progressions, that doesn't even necessarily make you a musician though.
Yeah, you're like a It's actually relatively easy to train a kid to be a virtuoso in something like that. There are exceptions, and obviously certain people who are very musically talented, so they're even better at it. But like when Mozart was a kid, everyone was amazed that the 6-year-old was an incredible pianist. But really, that wasn't the impressive part. The impressive part was that he was musically talented enough to continue making and writing great music. Just being a performer at a very high level who's really ground hard by tiger parents into doing that isn't that impressive.
No, it's not. It's really not. And it also kind of robs you of like the allowing, like making room for the hero's journey on your quest, on your road of musicianship, you know? Like it just, I mean, first of all, I've been both. I've been the Asian kid that was forced into piano classes when I was like really little, but also I've been, I discovered the joy of like meeting friends who play instruments and then cutting class together and going to the basements and jamming out, smoking weed. That was more significant to me than learning how to play the piano.
And you're learning how to play with other people and how to improvise and how to have that kind of musicianship.
Yeah.
As opposed to just a rote memorization. Though that also gives you a great base for everything else.
Yeah. It was actually it was really funny too. I mean, like all the local bandsters, you know, in high schools that ever got laid from like being in a cool band. Like I wonder if they ever realized that they're standing on the shoulders of giants. The only reason why girls are even into that is because they have favorite like pop punk bands.
I wonder if women are even that much into it anymore among younger generations.
Hell no.
Yeah, because if you're just like a talented guitarist, it's just a weird interest as opposed to being a SoundCloud rapper.
Well, now it's becoming apparent that just because you could do something doesn't mean you're capable of like producing anything with it.
Yeah, very true. And there's a lot of people who are virtuosos without adding more to it. I think another factor is that in the past, there was a lot more communal, average or amateur to above amateur, or like, semi-pro level musicians. Just because you read things from the 19th century and they always talk about everyone having a piano and different people take a crack at it and some are better than others.
Well, that's actually, that term is really funny to me. Professional, like pros, like professional musicians. I think like, when some people hear the word professional musician, they think of like famous artists that play in front of like
huge crowds. No.
I think like professional musician, I think of like a guy that gets booked at some fucking to play some commercial jingle on a keyboard.
That's a good point too.
Just so he could pay his fucking rent and eat, you know?
Mm-hmm. Or frankly, a lot of people are incredibly talented musicians, but there just aren't enough jobs for them. Every symphony has intense struggles for different positions people have on them. You have a bunch of people that are very talented concert violists or whatever. I'm thinking about an ex of mine, but there just aren't enough jobs and it doesn't pay enough for most people to do.
Yeah.
So when I say professional, though, I mean I should say highly talented musicians, right?
Yeah.
Another related phenomena. A lot of people used to be able to sing somewhat. Like they wouldn't hit all the notes. There's a bunch of songs that were kind of outside of their range, but there was a bunch of common songs like drinking songs, your sea shanties and the like, that they could sing well enough. Like the invention of record players and radio radio in particular led to a decline and then disappearance of singing in bars, karaoke bars notwithstanding. Kind of karaoke was a roundabout, cruder way of coming back to something that used to exist a lot. Like in the 18th century, you go into any British tavern and guys would just start breaking out in song.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, if they were going to a Protestant church where they sang in church, you already get a base level of training in it.
Yeah. Everyone basically know. Well, you could say that about a lot of things. Like,
yeah, there's a bunch of things that it used to be a bunch of people had like a passing ability with it, and a few people were naturally talented.
Well, ultimately, it's all like the things we're talking about now. It's like the modern world is so sedentary that people are losing a lot of touch with how to actually use their bodies in
That's very true. Yeah,
in very fine ways, and that's what it boils down to. Even with singing, it's basically learning how to use your body,
Yeah,
and I always took it for granted because ever since I was, again, like I went through the whole Asian kid gamut of like piano lessons, karate lessons, and shit. Which looking back is even though my teenage years were so fucking degenerate and I was like acting a damn fool pretty much. Those formative years being forced and dragged along, it was very useful looking back. Of course, it was 100%. Like, I think that's the reason why, like, someone pointed this out to me. Like, it's a kind of intelligence, like mechanical intelligence.
Yeah.
And it's like, what you ever try to like go through the turnstiles on the subway and you see one person like they swipe over and over and they just can't fucking get it. And then you're like, move over. And then you did it first try.
Yeah.
Because you just intuitively know just how much force you need to put. It's not like something you could even measure in words, really, I guess. But it's just, you just know.
Yeah, there's an intuitive nature to it. A lot of things you learn end up being that way. Things that just come naturally, or certain traits, technique kind of things that you start doing without even realizing or practicing.
Yeah. But then, like, I really think that's like practice. That comes through like actually doing stuff with your body that requires you to like figure out how to use it. Another thing that helped me was skateboarding.
Yeah.
I mean, I was never good at it, but like trying to do certain things with the skateboard, you're like, oh, I didn't know I could like manipulate my body to make this effect with a piece of wood and wheels.
Yeah. And
sports do that, I'm sure too. Like when you have like young kids grow up.
A lot of things, I can't throw for shit because I never was trying to throw as a kid. But that's something that's a very baseline human skill that our bodies are kind of made for, as per Reddit evolutionary theories.
Actually, to be fair, in your defense, things like throwing a proper ball, a proper spiral, or doing like proper martial arts techniques, those aren't really natural actions. Those aren't natural movements. What you're doing is you're basically forcing your body to do things that are unnatural to it. It's like
that's true.
Like
your body's able to adapt or learn it quite well.
Now
develop muscles perfectly for it, but
your natural proficiency could depend on like how long it takes for that process to go down. So yeah,
I think climbing and throwing are things that people just would have naturally done so much as kids most of the time.
Yeah.
That it's just a baseline that a lot of people never develop, even though it probably comes particularly naturally for most people.
Well, also the reason why this stuff matters is because like, for example, like let's say throwing a ball or throwing a punch or something like that, like if you're completely untrained with these unnatural movements at first, like, as a kid, you weren't told, it's like, oh, keep your feet in line when you run. Don't run like fucking duck footed. And it might be more comfortable for you to run duck footed. So you got to force your body to get used to doing something it's not used to doing until that becomes the new normal, right? It's like molding or programming. And, when you do that and when you go through that as a kid and then as an adult, you look at something like throwing a punch or throwing a ball, you realize like, most people who are untrained will only think of their arms, will only think of their hands, will only think of what they can see. Whereas people who are trained in shit will tell you stuff like it's on the hips. It's from the lower half of your body. That's where all the energy comes from.
Yeah.
When you throw a punch, you're basically all the force of it comes from turning your hips into it, not just like throwing a punch out. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So if you know these things, it's basically looking at your body more holistically.
Yes, that makes sense. Frankly, if you spend so much time, like all of us do, sitting at a desk, you're probably you're more inclined to think of your body's motions as just being like an upper body or a manual dexterity or something with your hands.
Yeah. I mean, I
That
think
might be a stretch, but it is perhaps just a general alienation from the whole body.
I don't think we have to do much to correct it, though. I think
Yeah.
just daily exercise will
I think because it is so natural, yeah, just daily exercise and the like would bring a lot of people who might think they're not able to into a greater coordination with their body.
Sure, yeah. That's really what it is. And
I found myself becoming more dexterous from the work I do.
yeah. Because you learn how to use your hands better, basically.
Use my hands better, yeah.
You learn, and not only that, more importantly, you learn the limitations of your hands.
Yeah.
You know, like where you see guys like being able to like twirl butterfly knives in their hands without cutting themselves, like shit like that. That's basically not so much from making anything stronger. It's more from having like a very good intuitive understanding of the limitations of what your appendages could do.
Yeah. Probably considering not consciously, but considering like length of fingers, grip strength, what you can pull off, what you can't.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been trying
same with
to-
cooking, right? Same with cooking techniques, and same with drinking, like mixing drinks and shit. Like you got to know. All right, I could do it
Yourself,
the fancy way, but I'm probably gonna fuck it up.
Yeah.
So I'll just do it the slow, meticulous way, tedious way.
I've noticed that I was trying to, because another bartender I know is getting better, though he's still not fully there, as a flaring trick of twirling the tin in one hand, like spinning it with his fingers. And I was trying it just without any weight, and I could not get it. But of course, I just haven't practiced it as much.
Spinning it with your fingers.
Yeah, like twirling. This is false. Oh, doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm embarrassing myself here with this like can of these kind of things, but with an entire tin.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the hand stuff, like Dexter, it's basically that. It's like once you know the limitations of like you better understand. It's like that's how you build dexterity, is like better understanding of your body. Whereas like building strength is basically pushing your limits. You know, pushing
Yeah,
your
very
limits.
true.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Pianists like do like hand stretching exercises and shit, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, when you play with bow ding balls, you can notice this somewhat of whatever muscles and knowledge of the weight and twisting it in your hand, twirling the balls.
Yeah. Also, this is actually funny because the game was in Squid Game, but it's called Kongi.
Okay.
It's basically like Korean jacks.
Okay.
So you lay them out, you throw one, and then you gotta like pick them up in a pattern individually, catch it, or like you throw one, try to see how many you swipe before you have to catch it again.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, games like that I think could really help exercise your dexterity. It's usually children's games if you play the right children's games at first. Video games, definitely.
Video games definitely do that, even within certain. But
it depends.
there's
It depends on the game. If you were like playing like RPG text-based scrollers, then yeah, that's one thing. But if you're playing like fighting games, you're like,
yeah, fighting games in particular. Yeah. Then again, just like typing, whenever I see someone, it's funny because it's both people older and younger than me that I can see struggle with typing. Younger people less so, but they're used to like using their thumbs on a phone, as opposed, but trying to use a proper keyboard, I've seen them slow down.
women don't like guys who can type on a real keyboard.
Yep. Well, whatever. That they do.
No, I just pulled that out of my ass.
I wouldn't.
You're
be
supposed
surprised.
You're supposed to be like totally.
I thought about it and I just took it for granted that was true. It sounded like something.
Yeah, it's like I'll take that for take that at face value. You know, like
yeah, that's a social trait a lot of people don't exercise, which is simple stuff like not taking women at their word because they're engaged in indirect communication. Not necessarily a bad thing.
I'm into, you know what? It's fucked up because like I could honestly say I am now that old guy into old shit because I could write cursive, I could drive stick, I could, you know, I still journal like using pen and paper.
Yeah.
I go back to tobacco instead of smoking like robot cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Robo penises.
I find myself regressing culturally back to like more old school shit.
Yep, you're just naturally becoming a boomer. The defining generations from now until the end of history are going to be boomers and zoomers.
Yeah.
Every old person is a boomer or unk.
Yeah. Well, let me think about this though. Like, what makes boomer living so rewarding? I think
There's just that rage joie de vivre.
it's the satisfaction of like executing and completing projects. You know,
Yeah,
like
which is inherently psychologically satisfying in a way that
also for
endlessly repetitive tasks.
I want to say too. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but it's like I do think there's room for nuance where we could, because like honestly, like a lot of the shit, I think even Zoomers aren't really like are still also susceptible to this because like a lot of the old shit, the boomer shit I'm learning from Zoomers on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, some of these Zoomers are way better at the boomer shit than the boomers.
That's very
you know?
true.
So I learned from them because they study it well. Some of these boomers have taught me how to like wear like old school accessories, like fucking pocket protectors and shit.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, the little cufflink, the collar tabs. Like I had no idea what those were about. Yeah, it's like these Zoomers, like I agree with that, and it's almost like it's not so much as a boomer mentality. To me, I think it's like in every generation, there's like a subset. There's a small population of people who manage to synthesize very choice elements from the previous generation, and then that just keeps continuing on and on. You know, so it's like, you know, maybe Gen X carried on some shit from before their generation, and we carry on some shit from prior generations, but then like. Most people of a generation don't do that. Most people of a generation go for what's shiny and new and what's disruptive. And I don't know. I guess without even me realizing, I looked around in my life and I was like, I'm here practicing medieval Japanese sword fighting and, you know, doing a bunch of.
Is it, how close is it? Well, I hadn't started the point, but I was going to say, how modern of a sword fighting is it?
That was pretty modern.
Yeah, modern reconstruction or
No. It's definitely
reconstruction.
It's definitely
evolution.
tradition. It's tradition, and it's the style was founded in like the 1930s.
Okay.
Because this was after the Japanese military had westernized, so a huge wave of nationalism swept over the military because they were freaking out. They were like, "Wait a minute, we barely look like our old warrior selves anymore." So they brought back katanas. Now, doing this, you know, like including katanas back into at least an officer's attire or formal wear. They had to learn how to use them again.
Yeah.
You know, because they just didn't know what the fuck they were doing. So what they did was they rounded up all the sword masters within the military that they could find, and then they brought them together and they said, just invent a new style based on all the different ryuha you come from, and just find something basic, find something functional, efficient, that anyone could just learn how to basically operate a sword without injuring themselves or destroying the, you know, sword.
It was a syncretic, modernizing, practical martial art. It's something like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yes. However, this was still invented by the old school guys.
Yeah.
So this particular style still has many elements, and the way they designed it was so it could perfectly, like, pretty much seamlessly align with like other schools of like swordsmanship, which is why when I first did it, I was able to start two schools. One of the studies, my main style is the one we're talking about now, but the other one I hold rank in is a much older style, like 1400s. It's famous. It's Yagyu Shinkaguryu. Everyone knows about the Yagyu family. Like, they're like an ancient, long-running family of warriors. They had ninjas, they had samurai, they had riflemen, they had archers. They were just basically like a clan of war, you know?
Yeah.
And the Yagyu style of swordsmanship is very different than, you know, say Toyama Ryu, but they integrate. I could make it integrate. You know, I see the common thread. It's a sword is a sword, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's another reason why I got good. You know, it's like I wasn't just like, I didn't mean to take two schools. It was just like,
something that came up at the time was that you're just trying to spend as much time as possible learning about swordsmanship.
I was just trying to find a school.
Okay.
And then I ended up trying like two schools, and I liked them both so much. I just kept going to both of them. And at first it was tough. It was like, cause I felt like I was learning two completely different things. It's like, but as long, you know, I stuck with it and I still remembered, it's like, ultimately we're still learning swordsmanship. We're learning how to use a sword. So I kept that in mind. And eventually, like, the differences got less and less dramatic. You know, eventually I started seeing
I
like,
guess at the start, it was like raising a small child bilingual, where you confuse them where they're not sure what to learn.
yeah,
But once you got past that point, you were able to accurately jump between the two styles or synthesize them.
yeah, pretty much. And it's funny too, because I see the, you know, it's actually a blessing, you know, because like I'll see where, you know, when I'm sparring with my Toyama Ryu dojo mates, like they're very, you know, there's the attack patterns are pretty basic, which is fine. You know, sometimes all you need. You only really need one good hit, so I respect that. And I totally like, it works. I can't deny it. However, when I look at, they're kind of like lacking in the bag of tricks area. But then when I see like the other school who's objectively better, they got the fancier moves and shit, but they can't cut for shit. Like if you gave them a real live blade and put them in front of a tatami mat and then you tell them cut this, like a lot of them will get stuck on just the first cut.
Well, they haven't trained for it.
Exactly.
Right? So they haven't trained for that.
But it's like
their philosophy of swordsmanship is very different than the one.
But can you say can you say either one is truly complete? Then it's like it's almost like you have. In my eyes, it's almost like you have to learn both. I mean, I'm not saying that's how you learn swordsmanship, but if you want to at least like do it the way I do, you got to learn like those two things. You got to, maybe not those two styles, but you got to learn like one bato standing style where you could just cut targets in the proper way. And you got to learn another style that's really teaching you how to engage with another swordsman.
How about you learn a style of swordsmanship that allows you to cut off women's clothes like Zorro?
That's hilarious. Actually, you know, it's funny. Here's the controversial aspect of it. The Toyama Ryu style, the more contemporary one I learned, that's the main purpose of that style, really. Like we explained the historical significance, but the actual use case of it was mostly like slaughtering Chinese and Korean peasants, you know, like
they're just trying to rack up the highest kills.
Yeah, that's what they use that style for. They would literally say like, I'll get in a competition with you, you know,
like all that stuff during the rape of Nanking and the like.
Yeah, so that's pretty crazy, you know. It's like I'm learning this style and I'm like looking
You're
at
just imagining cutting down huge swaths of Chinamen.
Pretty much. And supposedly there were cases where it's like a lot of these soldiers in like throughout the 30s, they engaged in some like mountainous skirmishes against mountainous skirmishes against like bandits, like Chinese bandits and shit. Yeah. So there would be a lot of sword fighting going on, or a lot of
were they like Chinese bandits that were stuck in the 14th century and they were walking around in loincloths with swords, starving?
That'd be sick. I think it was more like there was just like it got close quarters.
Well, no, because that makes sense. It got close quarters really fast, and this was right after, during China's warlord era, when you had a lot of China was divvied up into all these small statelets run by various eccentrics.
Yeah, and it's chaotic as fuck. Yep. And you know, it's really cool that I can do this stuff, and it's awesome that I know I'm pretty knowledgeable about it now, but none of it's gonna get me pussy. So
yeah. Yeah, it's always frustrating. What hobbies, what interests does a man get you pussy and which don't?
Honestly, that's not true. Any interest can really get you pussy.
To the right woman, yeah.
No, not even that. It's like as long as it's your own interest and it's like you're really passionate about it, that alone is attractive, I think. You know?
Yeah, that's very true.
Even for, you know, even in a woman, to me as a guy, you know, I think that's attractive in a person in general. Like any hobby will do as long as you're like into it, as long as you have a passion for it. That's what I was told. One of my kohai, my juniors, they were like, "You have a real passion for this." And I was like, "Cool." And I was also called a natural teacher, which was interesting because like I didn't think I was a good teacher. To me, I was just like, doing what I was taught, just teaching the way I was taught. And I was told like, "You're a natural teacher, like you know your stuff." And I was like, "Cool." You know, I've never been called a good teacher. Because I guess I never taught anything other than this before, so yeah. For all you listening, you know, now you know. I'm a good teacher of swordsmanship. I could teach you how to operate a katana without losing your foot.
So really, the entire podcast is just a means of promoting your swordsmanship teaching.
No, if I really wanted to promote my swordsmanship teaching, I would probably just like start an Instagram,
the Sword Sensei.
And then do like mad stunts.
Yeah, you're right. That kind of thing would in particular because short form video is clearly highly addictive and a lot of people love it, whether they're Instagram Reels or TikTok.
I look at it like this: like these short form Instagram videos are good to get new people interested, but as a swordsman, you want to go on YouTube to look at those like stupid old VHS transposed videos like from like old masters in the 80s or 90s, and then you see like just that it looks very dry like to the untrained eye. You're like looking at this shit, it's like there's no like spicing up of the production. It's literally just a footage of a guy doing his kata. Yeah, and he's just using a wooden sword swinging at nothing. But then if you know what you're looking at, it's very different. You're like, oh shit, like that was pretty fucking crazy. Sorry. Or at the very least, it's like that's a good idea. You know, when I look at these, like that's kind of how you end up looking at like sword masters. You know, of any sword discipline, really, they're less like fighters and more like professors. You know, like they're less like the fighter brawler archetype where they're just like brutes. It's like, yeah, I just want to fuck shit up. I mean, they do. A lot of are like that, but I feel like for the narrative view that you look at it through, the narrative lens you look at it through is from the eyes of a professor. You know, you're just constantly trying to uncover the mysteries of like the weapon, your body
how it works. I've heard descriptions that say we've made advancements in martial arts in the last 30 years of what is practical with like UFC and MMA that were either not known or forgotten about for a very long time. And there's something similar here to it, perhaps.
I mean, maybe.
There's the optimal meta for swordsmanship has not been found yet.
Or maybe it's always changing.
Probably is always changing, right?
Yeah, it's probably always changing.
Yeah, because it's in response to armor technology and it's in response to other contemporary swords techniques.
Yeah.
When you look at like European fight manuals from the 16th century, so much of it, it's all based around like these huge swords they were able to forge.
Yeah.
All like how all those guys with the two-handed Zweihanders or whatever in Germany were engaged in all these wrestling tactics with their swords.
Yeah, that's what ultimately a lot of sword fighting is just a lot of it boils down into like wrestling with swords. Especially if there's armor involved.
Anything in melee really defaults to grappling.
Okay, so that's another reason why swordsmanship sticks out to me, because there is the brawling aspect, the battlefield aspect, which is like you just go in, swords out, and you fuck shit up. Great. Hopefully you don't die. But then there's I almost think that's like more bearable to me than like a full-on duel, like where it's just you one-on-one. That's so much scarier than a brawl to me.
Yeah.
Because a brawl, at least I could use confusion. I could disengage if I have to. I could like basically like, and I have allies, and you could feed off that energy with each other, and you could, coordinate and stuff. Like you could do that, but a one-on-one duel, it's like there's no hiding. It's one of you must die.
Yeah.
And it's gonna hurt really bad.
Yeah.
And it's gonna feel gross. So you're gonna fucking do this, and that's scary. Especially if it's like scheduled. Like imagine it's like you get into such beef with someone, they're like, what?
Like the psychic state before and going into it.
Yeah.
Or with any duel. Back when we used to have dueling with pistols.
Yeah, it's like asking yourself in that culture, because there was different eras of war and different eras of peace. Now, as like a swordsman in Japan, would you like when would you feel more anxious, like the night before a battle or like a night before a duel? Like I feel more anxious than a night before a duel, dude.
Yeah, because during a battle, Musashi, what's his name? Miyamoto Musashi talks about how a lot of the time in battle he would hang back or he would get knocked out at the start of it and then be declared a victor in it.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of like sneaky things you could do around the margins.
Yeah, true. And God bless.
Thanks.
And
you see the same thing in the memoir of Gods of the Iron Hand, the German Rob Bitter, I think, like basically European Ronin in like 15th or 16th century Germany. A lot of battles, he was just sneaking around the corners and he was doing deliberate techniques. He had a whole different set of fighting techniques for fighting other trained swordsmen versus fighting like peasants who were levied. And a lot of things were just designed to freak out and break the morale of peasants, whereas he had actual tactics when he was engaged with another swordsman.
Also, a night before a battle, like a skirmish with like mad people, you and your boys could like hype each other up too. It's like
being in with other people makes a big difference with your boys.
yeah. Even if the odds are against you, it's still easier in a way than a duel. You know, at least it's like a shared struggle. It's like we're in this together. Whereas in a duel, it's like
just you and the other person.
Yeah.
I mean, it naturally lends itself to situations like ambushing someone before a duel, which happens a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a whole lot of bushwhacking, of all the things urbans do.
Sorry. What were you saying? A lot of bush? Yeah, a lot of like sneaky shit.
Yeah, people are really retired with guns.
That was good. I got to show that to the people. For your information. Bitch, I told you that I'm educated. Yeah, that's that monster, that's that problem, baby. Damn. That's my combination of damn and man.
Yeah. Oh, it's a revolver and he has it cocked?
It was a double action.
Yeah. All right. Very retarded. I like comparing our feeds.
Yeah, me too.
What do you think of Alex Jones's new look, post Ozempic?
I think Azalea Banks wants to fuck.
Yeah, she does.
I think she wants to hit that little bald ass motherfucker. He is pretty short too, right?
I forget. Yeah, he's pretty short. Yeah, I think the Dasha and Anna photos show that. And he's on like a similar incredibly short height as like Joe Rogan.
Yeah. So, God, I think I have to seriously come to terms with like podcasting now. You know, like I have to. Fuck.
I know it weighs heavily on you and really committing. After how long have you been doing this now?
Since like 2023. I mean, also it's like it's yeah. I've been going by episodes, like because I was always thinking like, you know, what a milestone. 10 episodes. Wow, 50 episodes. Wow, 100 episodes. 150 episodes, because that's where we're at now. I think like the last one I just posted was episode 150, and I was told that after 150 is when you start seeing like traction. Because it tells people, well, first of all, it signals to the very few subscribers you have. It's like telling them you're going to keep it going. You know, you're going to be a reliable source of content, at least. Like,
yes.
And also, like, I mean, I'm pretty like flippant about shit, but I don't think I ever go after people. Which I'm never gonna fucking do that. Like, I'm never gonna go and be like, yeah, let's talk shit about like Osmond Gold for a fucking hour. Let's talk shit about Sam Hyde for an hour. Let's talk shit about Hassan Piker for an hour. Like, it's
a very self-feeding ecosystem, but I guess it's a way to get traction, to get views.
Yeah, I'm not playing that.
It's a way of engaging. Such a tedious.
Streamer. You know what? I would respect it more if it was all bullshit beef. Like if it was all like coordinated and it's like, all right, now let's do this. Like let's do this little publicity stunt.
I'm sure some, perhaps even much is, or some is.
I mean, I'd respect
other things
that.
are probably subconsciously that.
Yeah.
But I know they probably take it very a bunch of people probably take it very seriously in their beefs, even when they think of it as just pro wrestling or kayfabe. They probably do end up feeling like it, because if you act like it enough, it probably becomes real.
I mean, I'm glad. Like
I've heard that pro wrestling rivalries start off as staged and then just naturally became real because of, I don't know, human psychology, perhaps from the sort of the head injuries they're receiving that are dumbing them.
Or it was manifesting, bro. Manifesting with collective.
It became a hyperstition, something that if enough people believe it, or if you believe it strongly enough, it becomes true.
Yes. Interesting. Yeah, but
slurs are also kind of hyperstitions, where just if enough people are using a word in a derogatory way, it
becomes a slur.
Yeah. Or it probably just has this cascading network effect where no one would use the word except as a slur, unless it's in certain contexts.
Yeah, slurs get really colorful too.
Yeah. Oh, they used to be more colorful. When you read, I don't know how widespread they were, but when you read those, like the Wikipedia article for ethnic slurs, there's a whole bunch of delightful 19th century slurs, and we just don't bring that level of fire anymore. Things like calling a black guy a smoked Irishman.
I mean,
The slur for Finns, China Swedes.
I still think the N word is like the most psychically destructive word in the world.
Yeah, in English in America, we've certainly made it into that. Kafir or kafir, whatever, is the same way in South Africa. But even then, I bet it's not as strong as nigger.
Yeah. I mean, it's. But aside from that, like I like as far as like starting beef with other content creators goes, it's like I don't know. I can't see a reason to ever, because like I look at the kind of things these people talk about, and it's always like either what another content creator is doing, or it's always something in the news cycle, like something about like it's like, yeah, what they're talking about aliens on the news, like that's just a load of baloney, man. It's total bullshit. Like we all know this is a fake ruse, or it's either it's like something from the news cycle, or it's shitting on another creator, and I'm like. Well, and I wonder, it's like, well, why don't I have to do that? Like, why haven't I ever felt the need to do that? And I realized it's because I found God and I found spirituality, you know, because I mean, it's not that I'm saying like that's all I talk about. I think it just helps me.
Helps you with being grounded, I suppose.
Yeah, and engaging
Not
with
also
people.
so no knee-jerk, cynical, nor nihilistic or pessimistic about things.
Yeah, I you know, like I genuinely, even if I don't care about something, I could care that you care about it, you know?
Yeah.
Like if I was just like 2021 Chris, like it was a whole different ballgame, you know? Like I was drinking way too much in those years, man.
I recall. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know. I know why. It was yeah. Well, there was also COVID.
That's true. COVID drove a lot of people insane.
Yeah.
A lot of people never recovered.
Yep.
Many ways, a lot of things haven't recovered.
I mean, with COVID, like I was a happy camper throughout COVID. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna front. I was getting paychecks. I was getting my stimulus checks. I was making stock money. I want another one. I want another
A bunch
COVID.
of people went insane during COVID, and a bunch of people either turned themselves around or did well. And there's also a number of people who had both happen to them.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people who improved or really did well under COVID, but also negatively affected them.
I think a lot of people had a spiritual awakening during like the lockdown because, I mean, in the immediate time, it was horrible. Like we had like increased reports of like domestic violence, increased like rates of divorce. Divorce went up, breakups went up, and all that shit. And at the time, going through it, it's like this is absolutely horrible. But looking back, like I bet you a lot of those people, like it's like, yeah, I'm a lot happier now. Like, you know,
Yes,
like
I agree. I moved to New York in part because of COVID, largely because of COVID.
exactly. Like they could say like, yo, honestly, like, yeah, it was terrible going through that like transition phase, but you know, COVID was pretty much like the disruption that pauses things just long enough for you to look at your fucking shit.
And you were getting money for free, and
Yeah.
you didn't have an expectation to go out.
Nothing was really, there was no like
Everything
people
in
at your
society
door.
was on hiatus except for essential workers. It was just a curious. The other thing is that because you were inside on your computer all the time, the level of like psychic assaults were so much higher. And someone who would normally not even be picking up on them now has nothing else to do, and they're getting hit by all of these psyops and psychic attacks.
Yeah, the psyops definitely cranked up.
I don't even mean, by the way, just from like from large authoritarian figures, not just from governments, corporations, what have you. There were a lot of decentralized, mimetic, grassroots psyops that came out.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think the concept of a grassroots, authentic, organically occurring psyop is underrated.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, the lockdown killed like a lot of basically the COVID era was the end of like any remnant spin-off or offshoot of the Occupy Wall Street times.
It was the end of millennial protest culture.
Yes. Yeah.
It was a culmination and an ending to it.
Yes. Which thank God for that. Like,
yeah,
fuck.
what an awful. Something that's always really fucking pissed me off. Really, really. Too much so, or irrationally.
It's
But
also
it's like-
annoying. Like, it's just fucking annoying.
I think I was particularly sensitive to the annoyance.
yeah. Me too.
Maybe I'm
I was sensitive
maybe I'm
to it.
being whiny or
No, no,
I think that a lot of people could just blow it off and say, yeah, this is dumb.
No, I empathize with that.
But for me, it was like I stop and I would think and think and think and get into like or I would go to protests and talk to people, and I was just like, I was amused a bunch of the time. I was entertained. Other times I was just really frustrated and weird social dynamics where people would be like arguing in real life.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to disrupt it or trying to diffuse it. And I don't know,
it was a bad time for sure, actually. What was weird though was like going to some of these protests, it's almost like it's just where Gen Xers would try to angle for sex from millennials because they're too weird.
Yeah, I think in the aughts, like to early 10s, there was a lot of that. And I think maybe part of it was, though I can't think of many direct cases, perhaps part of my interaction with it was sexual frustration at being cucked by older men.
But you know what?
In a Mr. Brightside situation.
But let's not lie. The whole protest culture did get some of us laid. It got me laid, I think, like a few times, you know? Because like, you know, you go to events, you go to gatherings,
you're going somewhere in person in this heightened emotional state around other young people, things would happen.
Yeah.
And that's something that I always ask people about. Like, you ever get laid because of protests? And people were always hated telling me, or they say, yeah, actually I have had, but it's, you know, it's not that. It's wrong. It's morally wrong
That's
to
so
go
funny.
to the.
That's the
so
best
often
part.
People deny,
That's the best part.
So many people denied, either felt guilt about it. Like the guys that said, like, I felt guilt going to this protest trying to meet a girl.
That's retarded.
Or women saying, like, yes, I've hooked up with men from it, but that wasn't the point. And it's actually wrong.
What is more rebellious than love? Okay. What is more revolutionary than that? You should celebrate that. If anything, that's something you should hold over your enemies. It's like, not only do we stand against you, but we get to have sex. Like,
well, leftists certainly do that, and also seems like a general trend towards incel
that's
politics.
Not, that's almost not good.
All politics becoming weird sexual politics.
That's terrible.
Is a terrible thing.
But
and
you know what?
You could see the roots of it in that protest.
But I agree with that though. It is ultimately all sexual. Like, because to me, it's like, well, I'm not saying like everything has to be about sex, but I am saying like when it comes to what we're protesting and like ultimately like what we're using even to protest, to be able to get out of our fucking apartments and to go out and like that juice, that energy, that's all sexual energy. That's it's creation energy, you know?
Yeah.
According to like the mystical traditions in the esoteric schools. But I kind of feel that because first of all, I think of like, if it wasn't for sex and sex energy, I wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Nothing would exist. No human invention would exist.
Yeah, true. It's life itself.
Yeah, basically. Which is why, like, I remember I got into a fight with one of my exes, and like I was so well, I wasn't disgusted. I was just like kind of put off, and like I didn't know what to say to her because like I didn't decide on like what she said. She figured this out before I did in life, and I just didn't know how to like handle it once she put it before me. She was like, I was like, all you think about is sex. You know, it's like you care about sex so much, and she's like, yeah, I think it's like the reason we're alive. And like, you know, at the time, like I blew up on after she said, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's all. But then like I think about it now, and I was like, that's a good fucking point.
It is. You know, there's a certain kind of antinatalist person, particularly woman, who watches a lot of Netflix shows, hates going outside.
Yeah.
That's so vague and so broad, excuse me. But there feels like a real lack of, unsurprisingly, there's a real lack of life in antinatalists.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. It's also I want to say this, and this might be coming out of like left field. This is kind of advice. So here's what I've noticed about life as a millennial, right? Things that Gen Xers learn as adults, like when there's things that they're supposed to be learning later on in life, we have to learn like way sooner for some reason. Not saying like positions in life necessitates it. It's just for some reason we're getting life lessons, like weird like adult experiences integrated into us or forced to integrate into us sooner and sooner. So let me give you an example. Something that in our predecessor generation, like one of the things that they would talk about when it comes to like, you know, having a long lasting marriage is you're going to have to figure out scheduled sex.
Yeah.
Now that's something as young millennials who are in their late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, even by now like mid to late 30s, they would never consider that. They would just be like, "Oh, we're not like those fucking boomers. Like we're not that old." It's like that may be true. However,
I think also when you're younger, you have less responsibilities, you have more open schedules, and you're also both hornier and so filled with life.
No. I think it's the opposite. I think we're less hornier.
Yeah, I was talking about like when you're in your 20s or whatever, and if you hear that the like scheduled sex or whatever, yeah, it makes when you have a kid and you have like a schedule and responsibility, it's a very different thing than being a single
Yeah,
adult
yeah, but think about like the life.
or
Think about
childless
think
adult.
about the life of a productive Gen Xer in their 20s or 30s. They're like, all right, babe, I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna come back, work on the car a bit, wash up, put the kids to bed, then we'll do our little honky dory.
Yeah, that's what I just said. They have a kid.
Yeah, yeah, no,
They
but
have a regular
but
life
now it's
schedule.
like you look at millennials in their 20s, 30s, and it's like well, maybe even younger, maybe like in their 20s and 20s, and there's no kid,
Zoomers.
and there's
are
no
the
kid. It's like,
20s.
and then they get together. It's like if you have like a young 20 something young couple now, like living together, it's like they get up and they're like productive.
Oh, they might actually have to have scheduled
Exactly, because
sex.
they're like, I gotta get up, I gotta go meet my influencer manager, then I gotta
Right,
go fucking.
they're on their grind set,
Yeah, yeah.
level of professionalism.
Exactly. It's
whereas millennials had a very extended adolescence.
yes,
And yeah,
and the Gen Xers even had more adolescence, extended adolescence in a
in
way.
some way, yeah, in some ways they hit marks earlier, but in other ways there's more extended.
Of
because there's
course.
less-
Yeah,
because
yeah.
millennials are really the generation that have like intense, highly. If they're middle or upper middle class, millennials had or Asian. Very scheduled childhoods, like very like, oh, you're going to do X, Y, and Z at this time. You're going from band practice to soccer practice to all
Optimized.
these, optimized activities, trying to get into the right schools.
Yeah. So like
Freddie DeBoer, the blogger and like actually not irritating socialist, but he had a piece recently where he vaguely wished, he's about my age or a bit older, that he was born 10 years earlier. And a lot of it's just romanticizing, but he's talking about it would have been nice to have been in my early 20s without smartphones and just lived a slacker, clerks-esque life.
yeah, it would have been nice.
Yeah.
If it would have been nice to not know, like ignorance is bliss, as they say.
Well, you made the point. I think unless I'm no, let me just make this point here. Perhaps smartphones and other modern technologies add to that kind of hyper schedulization or treating your
100%.
real life like a job. Because previously, if you're just like, I'm going to show up at my friend's house or at this bar at a certain hour and run into someone, you take more time to breathe.
Also, you would commit to less things throughout your day.
Yes, that's true.
Like,
yeah.
like just going to a store you've never been to would back then
Yeah.
requires you to like look at a map or
Yeah.
go on MapQuest.
Or just wander. Just wander and find it just randomly.
Ask around.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, do you know where this hardware store is? You know, like it's like, oh yeah, that's Angelo's Hardware. It's right down the block. You got to make a left. It's kind of hidden behind a little.
And all of life was like that up until recently.
Yeah, now you could just Google things on the spot. Everyone
Yeah.
just knows everything. It's interesting, actually.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but I don't dislike it. It's just interesting to note, you know, because I've seen both. I've seen when I was a kid, like my parents literally had maps in the car.
Yeah.
Now it's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Just Google Map it. That made me sound really old, by the way. It's like when I
Well,
was
that's
a
not
kid-
really. I mean, that's the weird thing. It's not really old. It's like,
It is old.
like
It is
remember
fucking
15 years ago when you wanted to go to a place, but you already had Google, so you'd look it up on MapQuest or Google Maps and print it out. Remember carrying a printout of a map to get to a location?
old. Yeah, like from MapQuest or some shit.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what really makes ages me now? It's
What?
my car, because like it's a 2005, meaning it's a 20-year-old car, meaning
Yeah.
it's literally technically considered categorically a classic. It's a classic.
Your car can have consensual sex with you, but a woman will still chastise you and call you a pedophile.
Yeah, yes, precisely, totally. But what's interesting though is like I look at the car and it's like as a 2005 car, I'd be like, yeah, it's not that old. But then I'm like looking at it and it's like, holy shit, that is fucking old. And it's
Yeah.
like basically it's like for me it's not that old. Like 2005 isn't that long ago. But if like any Zoomer were to look at that car, they'll be like, that thing's fucking ancient. Like that
Yeah,
thing's
it's crazy. Someone who's 19, someone who's 20,
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
who's 25 would say it's ancient.
yeah, they'd be like, you know, the thing is almost older than me. Which is crazy, you know, it's because it doesn't even look because like when I was 18 or 19, I remember what an old car used to look like, and that it looked nothing like what an old car today looks like, because I drive technically an old car. Funny shit.
Yeah, is your car? I don't know enough about cars. Is it a vintage automobile?
Yeah, as far as Geico is concerned, yeah, it's they're gonna charge me like classic rates.
Do you Do you play? You drive it to a car show and they're playing doo-wop.
No, it's not that old. It's not old enough for that.
Yeah, but it's almost that old.
For us, it's like it's the kind of car that we would drive while playing like
GTA San Andreas. No, because that's in the 90s.
Yeah.
GTA 4.
Yeah. No. I mean, as far as music wise, like pulling up to a function, bumping like Green Day.
Yeah.
Like, don't want to be an American idiot. God, that was terrible.
Yeah, it was. I felt really alien. Well, because I was homeschooled, I was only being introduced to it by the internet or broader media.
Oh no, yeah, that was a little. You're right. No, me too.
I was aware of it, but not really because I didn't know fans. I didn't listen.
Yeah. When I didn't start socializing, first of all, till high school.
Yeah.
Because, throughout middle school or whatever, I was just that bookish Asian kid.
Yeah.
But like in high school, that's when I would go out. And then by the time I would make friends in high school, they would introduce me to like a bunch of cool, like hardcore punk bands. And then like bands like Blink 182 and like Green Day would come up. It's like, oh, and then my new friends would be like, oh yeah, I haven't listened to that shit since like fucking 6th, 5th grade. Like for them, it was already
passe.
a bygone thing, like maybe their older brothers like put them onto it when they were kids. It's like, yeah, I remember my older brother put me onto that when I was a little kid, So for us, it was more like we were getting into like hardcore and also like emo, like My Chemical Romance. I wasn't into that shit, but that's what all my friends were into.
I wasn't into either of those. I just knew of it through the cultural sphere.
Now, during those times, you know what I was into besides punk? Hip hop. I was really, really into hip hop. I was into A Tribe Called Quest. I was into Jurassic 5.
You're into conscientious 90s hip hop.
Backpack rap.
Yeah.
Like fucking... Yeah, like Quasar rap music or some shit. Like
I didn't have that at least at the time though. I listened.
It was maybe remembering that it's like it's no wonder I would get into like spirituality and shit because they're all
Were
about
you listening to Immortal Technique.
No, not really. Immortal Technique's actually really funny because he's not even black and like
he's like Puerto Rican or some shit.
Yeah, and he just uses the N-word liberally. And it's like, isn't that
like New York Puerto Ricans are given a pass, I know.
It was funny though. It's like isn't
probably
that
due to 60s radicalism, I don't know.
Isn't that the guy who made a song about the kid who raped his own mother?
Yes. Yes, he is. Dance with the Devil.
I mean, when I was
bullied the Hamilton composer.
That's so
Lin-Manuel Miranda. In high school, he bullied him.
That's so funny.
It is.
Because I could imagine that as like a New York thing. Yeah. It's like you see Immortal Technique coming and shitting all over this like gay kid into probably into urban hip hop and poetry. Like
it's very bougie.
That's so funny. God, I wish YouTubers was like camera phones were around back then, so there would be footage of it.
Yeah, I know that would have been great. Like 15 or whatever is when I got into at the time contemporary indie rock and all the related scenes or genres. But I never had a punk phase. Was never into metal, never into hardcore, and never really into hip hop.
You know what I miss about those days?
What's that?
Like in my teenage years when hanging out with like friends or whatever, like no matter what friend was who, no matter who they were, no matter what they were into, it's like if you show them some good shit, they'll like be like, this is pretty good. I mean, I don't normally listen to this shit, but
you're open-minded.
This is pretty good. Now as an adult, like I'll put on some shit and it's like before I even put it on, I'm like, I already know like this would literally like offend their aesthetic. Like this would like it's almost like putting on
they've already prepped themselves or have already crafted an image of what they're into.
It's almost like it's like people in their 30s or late 20s have developed already their vibe.
They've calcified, they've crystallized their vibe.
Yeah, so it's like if I play this right now, this will really like fuck up their vibe. I already know it would without even playing the song. I'm like, I wouldn't play this around them because I know it's gonna like
I've had interactions like that, but yeah.
So it's interesting. Where in high school, like it was like that was never a deal. It's like.
And I don't know, you're young, you have time for it, you're perhaps more plastic with it. I don't know, I don't mean to make it sound too rigid or too...
I like to think I try to stay as uncalcified as possible with my vibe. So it's like if you see me in my car, I'd like to think I could bump like a bunch of different music and it'll just be okay,
Yeah. You're driving around bumping Blade. which I thought was Bladey for a long time, but apparently it's just Blade.
Yeah, I would right. I've been listening to a lot of jazz because
that's a great jazz car.
Yeah. Besides jazz, what else? Oh, NPR, of course.
Yes.
I can't not listen to NPR. It's just I gotta admit, like I used to ironically listen to it, then I used to hate listen to it, and now I just outright like steal from it, like formats and shit. I'm like, I mean, it's also it's word from the people, the kind of people I absolutely despise in this fucking world, and yet it's a good way to have your like finger on the pulse of like what normies are thinking about, or how they're being made to think. You listen to NPR, right? I mean,
not really. Actually, I used to listen to it in the past. Both your Wait Wait Don't Tell's Me, Prairie Home Companion, Car Talk, Auto Talk, whatever.
There's nothing quite like speeding 80 miles per hour down the Verrazano while bumping Wait Wait Don't Tell Me.
Yeah.
Or I'm trying to remember some of the actual reporters. There was Julia Popov. I like her.
All of them with their international not third world, international something third kid. I'm trying to remember what the term is for people who grow up in like international schools and they have exotic mixes where they're like Kenyan, Filipino, and the like.
Yeah. I think I could be a good
third culture kids is the term I was thinking.
Oh, third culture kids? Interesting. I wonder if I'm a third culture. No, I'm just a first gen American.
Yeah, no. Third culture kids, I think explicitly, you have to be like Obama. You don't have to be mixed race, but you have to have like, oh, as a kid, I lived in Jakarta, Nairobi, Paris.
Yeah.
And a bunch of them are like, or they went to like to a prep school in Switzerland or in America.
I knew this one guy who visited. He was a kid. We were like 19, 20s. He visited his dad in Africa.
Yeah.
And he was like borderline starving, and it was like normal for them.
Mm-hmm.
And he got like really good at like Arabic, like speaking and reading Arabic.
Yeah.
And he came back, and he's like basically how you describe it, like a third culture kid.
That is more so. A friend of mine went to Milton Academy in Massachusetts, and he not necessarily, well, he had a little bit, he had some of it, but mulatto, raised by white lesbians.
I love that.
But like his high school crush they never did anything with, he just told me about her and pined a bit, was genuinely the daughter of a Thai general.
Yeah.
Like her dad was an accused war criminal. And it was just like his high school crush at his Hogwarts ass school.
I'm trying to imagine like how I would feel if I was raised by like gay parents.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if I could be the same way I was now, I probably wouldn't give a shit. But then again, I probably wouldn't spend that much time around them either, because I've never did that I never spent that much time around my family. I think that's just what happens when you're a kid of divorced parents. Like you end up becoming very detached, and it was a curse in some ways, but a blessing in other ways. Like it sucked when I was a kid, like being alienated from my family, but like culturally at least, culturally alienated. Then I got older, and it's like I'm like looking at them. It's like you guys are all fucking messes. Like I didn't see this as a kid, but you guys are all on some like unsustainable course. Like that you didn't really.
Many such cases.
And you could only see it as a single, like, 33-year-old first generation Korean American.
You grow up with for anyone. As a child, they're normal, or you're blind to certain elements, and as you're older, you recontextualize your past experiences.
Also, everyone in my family did that old world thing. They all got married, like, relatively young.
Yeah. Yeah, they just hadn't assimilated to the American cultural norm of putting off marriage indefinitely.
Yeah,
unlike us, who definitely have.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind it. I know you do. I know you care more about this sort of thing. Like, you would like to be married and stuff.
That's true. Yes.
I don't care as much about that.
I try not to let it bother me, but yeah, it is more of something I aspire to in my life.
Well, you are like a bit older than me, I guess. So maybe I'll end up the same way,
But I had this feeling at your age and earlier.
I don't know. It's like it's hard for me to feel. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not saying I'm exceptional, but I am an exception because I view people differently now. You know, like everyone's just the same soul living out different lives in different bodies. I love repeating that because I feel like it irritates the right people. Like it irritates the people it should irritate. You know?
Yeah.
Or more specifically, it irritates the part of you that it's supposed to irritate.
Yeah, the part of them that's connected to other people and they don't want to admit it.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm just
You know, that being said, I fully agree with it. I still want this, which is really what it comes down to.
Let me put it this way: if I didn't want any of it, I probably wouldn't bother with like caring about my appearance.
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't bother with aesthetics. I probably wouldn't bother with a lot of shit. I do, honestly, at the end of the day, like, you know. Yeah, I like chicks. I do. I like companionship. And I definitely don't want to just like, which is why I haven't hooked up with anyone for
same. I feel similarly about that.
Like I haven't gone on any random.
My life isn't miserable or worthless because I don't have someone, but yeah, it would be part overall of fulfillment. Finding the right person is part of that fulfillment.
I think currently, like what I'm really coming to grips with or coming to terms with, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer to this. I'm just deciding like how much I would be willing to like be a stepdad, you know?
Yeah, especially with age. Yeah, I can relate.
Well, it's not even I was ever against it really being a stepdad. I mean, I've had step parents. Like it's not weird to me really. It's just a matter of like it's such a big fucking deal, you know, because it's like you're entering a person's life, and also you're not just dealing with the kid, you're not just dealing with the kid's mom, but you're also dealing with the kid's dad.
Yeah,
because that's like a permanent party member of the whole dynamic, and like that's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes the dad's dead, or sometimes you know, sometimes the dad's like excommunicado, and I get that. It's just most of the time that's not the case. Most of the time it's just an amicable like semi-amicable separation, and it's just something you got to deal with. I've hooked up with moms too, you know, so it's like it's not even something that's completely that I'm unattracted to. Like, it's just the responsibility part. That's all it is. It's just a big bag of obligation, you know. It's like because even if it's my stepkid, I gotta like, you know, follow through with that. Like you got to follow through with your stepkid as if they were your biological kid.
Yeah, you do.
So,
but it's also natural. It's always something people have always done because people have always gotten like, in the past, it was more like people were dying all the time. So a lot of stepkids was because a parent died of disease and war.
That's why
famine.
it was so common. Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly,
childbirth, women used to die in childbirth all the time.
What's great, honestly, what's good is when you get like lower middle class, low end of the genetic pool, like when like a couple gets together, have a shitload of kids, they divorce, and then meet other people in the same level of the genetic pool, and they have a shitload of kids together.
Yeah, complicated families. And
that's always good. You know, that's good for America.
Yeah. Yeah, it often feels very dysfunctional dynamics occur, but yeah.
I mean, I think it's great for the workforce. It's great for the economy. It's more consumers at the end of the day. And you know, with a family
more
like
consumers is a big factor. I keep thinking of the nature of non-working consumers.
You ever heard of the channel Soft White Underbelly?
Yes.
You ever see any of the shit on that?
No, I just know of it.
Oh god, we're gonna fix that right now. Some of the shit is so wild. Like I honestly find it unethical. Like he'll go to like the swamps down south or some shit. I don't think he's a bad dude.
Yeah.
But I do think like this is not
even the gray, all that.
What?
Busted.
Yeah, I probably can't even play any of this shit.
Yeah, copyright, whatever. But
yeah, because he's probably like.
Yeah, he would be. You're right. We don't want to scotch the entire episode.
Yeah, prostitute interviews, trick interviews, in extreme.
Yeah, I get the sense of it.
Yeah. Drug addicted couple Jody and Gino. I hate these. I hate the drug addicted couple ones. These
are always so depressing, and they're always such underlying the sadness and tragedy of their life. They're just a relentless child.
Oh, this one has a kid
selfishness. Involved. Pregnant again. Yeah.
This is terrible. Well, some of these look interesting. Neurodivergent psycho. Oh God.
Wait, hold on, don't play it, but she's a little bit chubby, but I would.
You would
fuck.
hit that. You would hit that.
She's
dude.
chubby, but I would
You'd be
hit it.
all
Yeah, I
over
would.
that.
You're right. Well, also, I don't know, neurodivergent. She's probably very into racist sex.
Oh, this is cool. He pulls a gun on an interview. I mean, I wouldn't. The gun isn't that like scary, especially as in other states.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, soft white underbelly. Check it out, everyone. Tell us what you think. I just want to wait. I'm gonna go back to the screen real quick just to show you this guy. Holy shit! Ex-gang member interviewed Johnny. I'm sorry. It's like I can't tell if he's really hard or just really gay. Like he could
A little bit of both.
He could
probably
easily,
really gay.
Yeah, he could easily be like a San Francisco, like style, new silicone gay guy. I mean, it would be fucked up if he sees this podcast and he's like, "Yo, Johnny, this fucking Asian kid from
I'm gonna go suck his dick." That's how you know it's really just gay. He's just from the Castro district.
Yeah. I'm gonna hunt him down. Oh my god, I've seen some stupid shit like where it's someone would post like a screenshot from Grindr,
Yeah.
and then the conversation would be like, "Hey, what are you into?" It's like girls. It's like guys dressing up as girls. It's like no, just like real heterosexual girls. And it's like, but this is Grindr. It's like, so don't be mad that straights are invading your platform.
Yeah. I know. Acceptance goes along with the destruction of entirely private community.
Yes, true. Like insular.
Once you have gay acceptance, you cannot replicate the kinds of communities that existed in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, it's true.
Same way integration destroys or damages a distinct black culture, or any group assimilating does.
Yeah. Who's your favorite black person? This is the kind of question I would usually ask you off the mic. Like I would be like, so down to brass
That's
tacks.
a really good question.
I would like if you asked me 10 years ago, I would have been like Will Smith.
Yeah, Will Smith really was near the top. Prince.
You like the gay ones, huh?
Yeah, I like the weird niggas. Doja Cat, because I want to have sex with her.
Yeah.
She also is one of my favorite Jewish people.
Oh yeah, that's right. She is Jewish. So is Drake.
The ideal. Well, yeah, I know.
Imagine if Drake and Doja Cat ended up getting married, just because they have so much in common culturally.
I don't know if I would approve of that myself, but
it should be me.
yeah, exactly. James Baldwin, the writer, W.E.B. Du Bois.
Yo, read this.
Yeah. Harvesters needed for West Indian Sea Island cotton.
Unemployed persons or those looking to earn extra income are invited to participate in the upcoming cotton harvest.
How about just having like you know how you have indoor like axe throwing
Yeah.
bars? How
Cotton
about if you had
picking
yeah,
bars?
exactly, cotton picking bars.
Holy
where you just
shit.
have recreational cotton picking fields.
I don't know. That sounds like fun, I guess.
Also, whites are allowed to wear blackface while doing it. It's the one place where it's socially acceptable to wear blackface.
Just because you're actually doing the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, it's like a club. There's a no cameras rule, no cell phones.
Yeah. You know what's actually funny? I remember there was a time in like sometime around like 2016 maybe. No. Before that even like I want to say like 2010, 2011. I think there was a time of like exclusionary like when things got so inclusionary they became exclusionary. Like this is a blacks only space. Like this is
It was one of the very awful qualities of the 2010s, yes.
which was interesting to me looking back at it. Like, I mean,
Because basically everyone agrees that era from like 2012 to last year is over.
yeah, and also another thing that was interesting about that time was that's when like the 69th wave of feminism was in like full swing, and there was like you saw.
Perhaps you could say fourth wave feminism is just trans issues.
Well, that I was getting to that. Yeah, exactly. It's like you saw a lot of like women's only spaces because women felt that they lacked spaces to, be women only.
This is a very second wave feminist take. Like people from the 1970s were, and like Andrea Dworkin types were often adverse to trans women.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Well, this was even before trans people were in the modern conversation at the time. So you had these feminist blow up, right? And all the women's were making women only spaces because they needed it, which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, like women's locker rooms exist.
Remember,
But then trans people started saying like, they were saying like, hey, I'm a woman too, but then why am I not invited? And then the women are like, all right, I guess, it's like, I guess we could, fine, whatever. Yeah. And then like eventually you had like full on dudes just putting on lipstick and be like, hey, I'm a woman too. You should include me in the space as well. And it got really uncomfortable for these women. They were like,
This was all like before racism became the internet or society's monomaniacal fixture.
Yeah.
The internet was dominated by feminism chatter. Like in 2012, up until 2014 was the switching point, because you remember that 12 hours of walking as a woman in New York City video.
You remember that a lot, but it's always fun.
I do. I'm obsessed with it
because it's an inflection point in culture. Yeah.
It was when it went from feminism to racism.
Yeah. Because then you had the black guys saying like, "What are you trying to say?"
Yeah. Oh, you edited out all the waspy men who I'm sure were catcalling this Jewess.
Oh my god. yeah, to accuse them of editing, it's like you just edited out all the white
It's on
dudes.
the level of saying white supremacists are wearing realistic black masks and committing crimes to make blacks look bad.
That's so fucked.
It's just like Hotep level conspiracy.
Honestly, like that whole experiment was the most what's the word for it? It's like ill thought out, maybe. It's nearsighted. It was so nearsighted because they didn't realize the can of worms they were opening up. It's like, yeah, and New York City of all places, like it would have worked so much better maybe at like a mall in Jersey, but no, they had to do it.
Somewhere where if anything, you should go to a place where there's going to be aggressive white or white.
Yeah, that would have worked out so much.
They weren't thinking about it. They were just focused on feminism stuff.
And of course, all the most outspoken feminists who would like cook up a stupid fucking idea like that all live in New York, Brooklyn, like they're in the vicinity adjacent to Vice and like,
Yeah.
And Etsy.
I think the earlier stuff that was more feminism focused and also more nerd culture focused, like going to comic book cons and other kind of conventions, was men, often white men, because of the demographics of those venues, making awkward come-ons, like Elevator Gate. That was in like 2011, 2012. This minor atheist influencer, atheism used to be prominent, influencer was in an elevator and a guy made an awkward come on to her and blew up into a social conflagration in online and in the atheist community.
Well, I think here from the woman's perspective, I look at it as like, all right, so like the one who plays ball would look at that girl and be like, why did you blow up like that? You should have just guys do that shit all the time. Whereas like any intelligent, self-respecting woman would be like, think about it, and they'd be like, who isn't utterly defeated by the world, they would think about it and they'd be like, no, honestly, she's fucking right. We shouldn't have to fucking deal with it if we don't want to. We should be allowed to just tell guys to fuck off and blow up if they don't. Like fuck it. It's like I could see how that's a turning point, especially like the only problem is that it should have happened a long time ago. Like that sort of thing should have happened. The only reason why it happened now is because of the internet and smartphones and social networking platforms and all that shit. This is what adds spice on like all the old, quote unquote, old world issues that are now like finally getting brutally resolved or attempting to be resolved one way or another,
And yet, yeah, no, I agree. Um, that shift from talking about feminism to talking about race to, I guess, talking about trans now. Those waves of things that dominated the internet
well, okay, so actually, I know the
atheism was before feminism. Go on.
no, I know the specific pipeline from like race to the trans stuff. It was when people were realizing that like after the race was a big issue, they would like you had like liberal.
Well, you had race riots in 2020.
Yeah, and you had like a lot of liberals, like liberal white girls, and all these sorts of people like sticking up for black people. And then amidst all that, you had a lot of black guys being very homophobic, being very transphobic. Like because it's uncomfortable for these people to talk about, I guess, but it's true. Black people like are typically like pretty fucking.
They're less so now, but yeah, traditionally they were.
Yeah,
there's probably something to the claim that there's an attempt to gayify the black community, though I don't know how much effort actually needs to be done.
But that's so funny to me because like you have these liberals who are like making life everyone difficult in the name of like BLM or some shit. And they probably have a lot of gay or trans friends or something. And then you see like the black people are like, yeah, fuck all that gay shit.
2020 riots were such an interesting, bizarre time too, but
it's like how it's again, this is like short-sightedness. It's literally the same.
There's no ability. Well, basically the homophobia and transphobia of black community is mostly glossed over or hidden in these discussions, like any inconvenient information.
Yeah. Well, I think it's okay. So here's where I actually agree with the leftist nerds about and the Marxists, like because they say smart shit sometimes, and one of the smartest things they say is that none of that racial shit, that feminist shit, that any of that shit matters. The only true discrepancy between people that matters is class.
Yes,
and that's true. That is 100. I would 100% agree with any fucking Marxist on that. Like.
I think sex is a huge discrepancy just due to basic biology.
No, that's not true because, in like say the bourgeois class, you would still have females also being the oppressors inside. They're basically like the junior officers of the Nazis,
Yes, but I mean, the relation. Fair enough.
Like either way, like women can be just as culpable. They're just on the lower end of the spectrum of the just that spectrum,
No, I wasn't talking about any kind of oppressive hierarchy. I meant purely in the sense that the experience for a woman is very different than that of a man.
True.
Just due to baseline physical differences.
But within the structure of class, which is the real because like you have opposite genders in every class, so that's universal. At least that universal. But the only real discrepancy that matters is class. Not race, not gender. That's all stupid shit. Not orientation. It's just class. Because like you look at like the rich people, there's plenty of gay rich people. There's plenty of trans rich people. There's plenty of, you have all the rich people of all sorts of flavors. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, class doesn't have the appeal or doesn't seem to catch people's attention in the same way.
Because they're stupid. They don't understand. I mean, it takes more brain power to recognize the differences of class. And it also takes more spiritual honesty. It takes more being honest with yourself and recognizing a person who's of higher class to be able to like objectively deconstruct their class in the first place, Mm-hmm. So that's another thing. Also, because of class structure, you'll have like a friend group and people of different classes in the same friend group, and no one wants to like yuck that yum. Like,
most people's friends groups are pretty similar class.
You think so?
People might make more or less money, but I think they end up being culturally similar. A guy who, give me a second here. A lot, like it's possible for a struggling adjunct professor and a doctor to be friends because they both went to college together.
Yeah, that makes
sense. They
make
vastly different amounts of money, but they're of similar cultural interests, similar class, even though one's higher than the other one. The class in this case is kind of like the type of work you do or your cultural background. It's more neither of them are likely to be friends with an auto body shop employee, like just a mechanic in an auto body shop. But an auto body shop mechanic could very well be friends with a used car salesman.
Yeah.
Used car salesman is making a lot more money and is doing something that's purely verbal or white collar work. But I know I'm using two examples involving cars here, but they're like they're both of those guys are more likely to be Republicans, and both the former people are a lot more likely to be Democrats.
True. Unless, of course, they somehow meet at their local Masonic lodge.
Yes, that's true. Something that can cross cultural backgrounds.
Actually, you know what? Or class
background.
Yeah.
Same thing with churches. Churches used to be a place where people of different classes would be friends with each other.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And we're lacking something by not having that.
Yeah, like I go to like Korean, I see Korean churches, and you see like a lot of rich people and a lot of very not so rich people, but they're all Koreans, they're all Christians. Another thing, it's like I go to like martial arts schools, right? I'll see like some guys who are doing like very well for themselves and training alongside dudes who aren't necessarily doing
well. But there's plenty of times when I meet someone from an entirely different world than me. Excuse me. If I go to a bar, for instance, one of the rare places, it would have to be the specific bars that I can run into someone who has a very different kind of employment than I, or very different cultural background.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
But yes, we're talking about Masons because we drove past a Masonic lodge earlier.
Yeah, and I was thinking about joining my local Masonic lodge.
Were you raised Presbyterian? Not that it matters because you're on your own spiritual trip anyway.
It should be Presbyterian. I mean, what other brand of Korean Christianity is there? It's either that or it's
Catholic. It's either Presbyterian or Catholic.
Yeah, but
I think
they're not really. It's not like there's Catholic Korean churches. It's mostly Koreans who go to a Catholic
I'm sure
church.
the case is that if you're a Catholic Korean and you move to America, you just assimilate into whatever Irish or Italian.
And they would welcome you.
Yeah, exactly, because it's ecumenical Catholicism.
It's like you've had your communion, you did all your shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be great. They would love it. They would love it. Because like if there's one thing like you could say about Catholicism, like it really doesn't matter if you're from like Mexico, if you're from New Jersey.
Yeah, it's baked into it. It's the nature of the ecumenical church.
Yes. In fact, I think because of Catholicism, we've had the most intercultural breeding. Like ethnic breeding.
Yes, the Catholic Church is an engine of miscegenation.
Yeah.
Look at Latin America.
Yeah, precisely. Or that's why you have like half Polish, half Irish, or half Italian,
that's true,
half
yes.
Irish, or half Polish, half Italian. Of course, the French don't do any of that shit. Neither do the British, because they're not Catholic dominated. I mean, Catholicism is cool. I like it. I specifically like the Latin American Catholicism.
I do too. I like garishness. I like the level of devotion and passion to it. I like how Filipinos will crucify themselves around Easter.
That's pretty cool. What's scary though is like that kind of Catholicism is no longer truly like monotheism. It's basically paganism. At some point,
it can be. Catholicism allows a certain level of syncretism. Certainly, in a bunch of places, it's like that. Yes.
Also, it's like when what's really scary though is when you see like the cartel gangsters also like heavily venerating that shit.
Well, there's been many such cases like that throughout history, but yeah.
Well, that's their
source
cartel
of power. Also do their things with their various pagan rituals.
I don't think you could be a truly functional warrior killer of men unless you have a spiritual component to you, or a demonic component, I guess. You need a metaphysical perspective. That's the only way to conquer your fears and stuff. It's good you're supposed to feel fear, but how do you like get over that? You have to take some kind of metaphysical perspective. Like for example, it's as simple as what's the worst that could happen, right?
Yeah.
That's what I always say. I mean, I try not to use that as an excuse to do stupid shit, but if there's something that people want me to do and I'm just scared to do it, I'll ask myself, like, what's the worst that could happen? Usually it's not that bad. Like, what's the worst that can happen here? I die? Okay, everyone dies.
Yeah.
Boo-hoo. But this is only because I'm not married or have kids. Then
That's true. Yes, that's a very different dynamic.
Yeah.
Well, as a man, being a single man, not in a relationship, you're far more risk-taking, far more cavalier, far braver in a bunch of ways. But guys, when they have a relationship, and definitely when they have kids, have like their whole responsibility structure is rearranged.
Yeah, I mean, I actually talked about this before because when it comes to like basically living the life I'm living now, the I guess the spiritual path,
Yes.
you know, it's like if you're gonna do that, there's certain things that
Go on. Sorry. Is it that renouncing of such worldly things as a family, perhaps?
no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like I'm not talking about renouncing anything or like restricting anything, but what I am saying is when it comes to like then you're going by like a lot of energy based things like metaphysical aspects of the self, because that's the most important thing first. You can't really change metaphysical aspects about other things. You have to change it about yourself first.
Yeah.
So for me, it's there's one when you think about energy, it's like what are the things that are blocking your energy? Well, there's regrets, there's complaints, there's like just frustrations, there's feelings of entitlement, there's ego, you know, but the biggest one is like grudges, you know, like holding grudges against other humans. And you know
That's
already
a bad habit of mine.
but what I'm saying is that I already think like everyone's the same soul living out
Yeah.
different, so you're holding grudges against different versions of yourself pretty much.
Yeah, you're holding a grudge against yourself. Perhaps you're holding a grudge against your past
So-
self for something you did or didn't do.
So the more pertinent way to put that, I guess, in my own spin on it would be to say, how good are you at forgiveness? Like how good are you at forgiving? Now, I say I'm in a really good place. You know, I'm in a very like high spiritual capital position where I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. And in materialist sense, you're gonna be like, you have nothing. You don't have kids. You don't have a wife. What the fuck? But in a spiritual sense, it's like, dude, I'm in the best position. I have nothing to lose. I don't have a wife to cheat on me. I don't have kids to like worry about. I don't have a wife.
You only
to
have to pay
kidnap.
for yourself. You can still do it, and you have a higher, broader fertility window.
And okay, yeah, you're right. Those are all true. Like it's all of that. But I'm also saying like if anyone fucks me over,
Yeah.
it's very easy to forgive that for me.
Yeah.
Because you didn't fuck over my wife. You didn't fuck over my kids. You didn't fuck over my family. You didn't take food out of my family's mouth. It's like I could forgive, you know, like because but I know that if you have a wife and kids, like if you have a family, if you have an actual family, like it's so much harder. Way harder, like to forgive. So it's like I look at the most vulnerable people to psyops and like most politically motivated people, and like when I think of like glowy infected people and all that shit, the most vulnerable victims are parents, are people with kids. Like I think of people extremists on both ends. It's either they're freaking out that someone's going to force their kid to turn trans, or they're freaking out that the kid's
Someone's going to prevent their kids from turning trans.
It's because they have kids. Just period. That's the problem.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's a problem.
Focus on trans kids stuff.
Well,
Especially
also-
when there's so few kids around. If everyone was having more kids, they probably wouldn't mind a few kids tranning out. Actually, that's a really good take. Is that we need to raise the birth rate so people will be more accepting of trans kids.
Yeah, that's true. You know, if we had more babies being born, no one would care.
Yeah.
We need some trans kids, in fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, but yeah,
I've had a bunch of great material thus far on the show.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the episodes are getting better for sure.
Yeah. How far along are we? Can you?
The giggle, like you just
Yeah.
did something naughty and it
Yeah,
tickles the little
exactly.
naughty bone.
And yeah, naughty. Sadly, not sexy, but naughty.
Naughty.
Yeah.
yeah. The word retard is pretty naughty. I'll
Yeah.
admit. I never stopped using it. I think it's because like I dated a woman from Canada for so long. I would just look at the flight board in the airports, and it just say un retard, and I'd be like, well, you know, I guess it's like
Yeah, yeah,
It's
you're
like,
just- you're
she
just
would hit me up. She's
naturally-
like, where you at? It's like my flight's been retarded. I'm sorry.
I've heard that before. Yeah, with French. Oh man.
But it's like since then it's like it's burned into my brain. Like, yeah, it's just okay, you know. It's like if you're Canadian, you see the word retard written all the time. It's not traumatic. It's not damaging, you know.
I think same if you live in France.
Also, it's like the word retard, right? It's like, you know, it's not just a slur. It's a real word, you know.
Yeah.
It's like it's an
It
actual.
was also part of a euphemism treadmill that retard was adopted as opposed to earlier terms like moron or imbecile or idiot, which were once technical terms.
He's a moron.
Yeah. I've positively diagnosed that pussy as being imbecilic.
Yo, this pussy is retarded.
Yeah. This pussy is moronic.
Yeah. The real difference between like retarded or like moronic and like insane is that insane is high energy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you can just imagine their 90s edgy, bulging hair, intense action lines and laugh lines surrounding the face.
Yeah. So yeah, we did take the word retard back.
Yeah, that was the great victory of 2024.
I guess
the return of the retard.
The only winning strategy, right, in this life is to call yourself a retard, but then do non-retard things. It's like, oh, don't mind me, I'm just your friendly neighborhood moron. But then you do like smart shit. You know, like that's the winning strategy. You can't. It's the opposite doesn't work. Like you don't want to say you're smart and then do stupid shit. No, you want to say you're stupid and do smart shit. It's probably easier too. It's probably easier to say you're stupid and to do things that at least look smart, or at least smarter than what's expected of you. You know. I always say I'm an idiot. I mean, do I actually think I'm an idiot? Well, I'll leave that, up for debate. But I don't. I say I'm an idiot all the time. But I try but I try not to do idiot things.
Idiotic things.
I try not to do moronic things.
Yeah. I try to do gay things and retarded things.
Gay and retarded things. Yeah, because you have the privilege as a white man.
Yeah, to be gay and retarded.
Yeah, that's the greatest white man privilege to be gay and retarded.
Yeah, after doing so well on dating apps in the sexual marketplace, at least if you're 6 foot passing, such as I, doing gay and retarded things is the strongest white male privilege.
I'm pretty sure you're 6 foot. I think I'm like 5'11", so you're
I'm 5'11" and a half.
Okay, so you're.
But then in shoes or whatever, or the way I carry myself, I can project a higher
height. Yeah, height wise, I'm definitely mid. In fact, that's.
I've been told I have a short man's personality, where I have a lot of jittery energy that usually you find in a shorter man compensating for a small size.
Interesting. I never thought about it like that. Do I have tall man energy or short man, or do I have mid man energy? I think I
think you have mega mid man energy.
Nigga mid.
Nigga mid man.
I don't know what that means, but
Nigga.
Someone said I had dragon energy.
Very tiresome, but
I don't know. I didn't even know what it means. I think they were thinking about like Bruce Lee, and I was like, this is kind of racist sounding. But
I mean, it's pretty flattering to be compared to a dragon, or perhaps a Chinese dragon, or a long.
Yeah,
Chinese dragons are like, I don't know the pronunciation, but a Chinese dragon is Lung.
The same guy also said like that. Bruce Lee did a lot to make like Asian men.
Oh, attractive or appealing?
Yeah.
Yeah, Asian men have to lean on different media depictions to improve their sexual market value. So there's a bunch of guys that weren't getting laid until K-pop came out.
Yeah. No, I definitely don't lean on any media to like try to. You know what? All right. I think my main attractive.
You lean on a cool Asian archetype, a distinct cool Asian American archetype.
Maybe, but it's like that archetype isn't what actually ever gets me laid. It's always
going out and the activities you're doing.
No. Even before that, it was always like my ability to meet them where they're at, to meet people where they're at. It's like I mean, I think what for example, like I grew up in Staten Island, right? And as an Asian guy, like no Italian girl would probably look at me twice, but at a party, like they would talk to me, and then I'll be like, yeah, this is the shit I'm into. This is kind of the stuff I grew up with. This is what I grew up around. And she's like, oh, you went to school around Huguenot? And I'd be like, yeah. And she'd be like, get out of here. Did you go to the little icy place, to get ices in the summertime? And I'll be like, yeah. I'll cut school every day too, and I'll get cigarettes from that deli. And then, that's how you really hit it off. And you basically, literally, you meet them where they're at. You conjure emotional, like you bypass rational mind, and you literally like conjure like the sensation of like walking down the sidewalk in the Huguenot, smelling the fucking like like the trees around that densely wooded area with the fucking like pollen fucking up your allergies because all the trees in New York
So
are male.
Staten Island's a pretty small town in a lot of ways. It sounds like.
Kind of, yeah. But there's other ways too. It's like I can meet. I guess that's like kind of the blessing of growing up in New York City your whole fucking life. Like I could easily meet like a Chinese immigrant and then be like, oh yeah, are you into you've been to New York City before? And they'd be like, yeah. It's like, so you've been to the dim sum place like that everyone likes to go to, and then they'll be offended. They'd be like, get the fuck out of here. No, there's a much better place. Let me show you. Like there's many ways, and it's like all you have to.
Well, you have this relationship with New York City because you can go into it so easily.
Yeah, but
I think I will say I'm envious of you having grown up on Staten Island. I wish I did because it feels like it was a good place to be able to get into the city when necessary.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And also, like when you like the friends you grow up with are not like inner city kids like smoking weed in project staircases, which I did a lot of that too.
Yeah,
but yeah, in Staten Island, it's more like it's like my parents are at work. Like let's just hang out in our basement and play Xbox, smoke a fuck ton of weed, and play music. Which
sounds like you had a suburban but cooler childhood.
Yeah, because it's New York City,
Yeah, that's what feels appealing about this area and why I wouldn't mind.
It's the best.
I would like to live here when I'm married and have kids.
Dude, if the only shot of raising a sane child in New York City is in Staten Island.
Let me put it this way to you, Chris. I am not going to move here until I get married and have a kid.
That's fine.
Then I definitely will.
I mean, don't get me wrong though. By then, though, like it's like you're gonna do something smarter. You're probably gonna be like, "Fuck that! I'll just move to Jersey and go to New York City whenever I want." You'll get a house at a much better price. You could own a gun. You could. The only thing is, it's a lot. It's easier and harder to get away with a lot of fuck shit living in New York City, right? You lived in New York City, like you can't get away with smoking weed on the sidewalk like we can here, I think, in New Jersey.
Even Staten Island is more New York than Jersey.
Exactly. Because in Staten Island, we do fuck shit all the time. We've done plenty of, like, you don't even live here and you don't even hang out here yet. Like, from hanging out with me, we've done plenty of stupid shit already in Staten Island. Like,
yeah, we have.
We've nearly gotten into multiple car accidents.
Yes, well, with your driving in particular, but yeah.
Yeah, but we've also we've also made a lot of efficient travel.
That's true.
I showed you a lot of efficient ways of traveling around. There's that.
A city of locomotion.
Yeah. We've also gone to some strange places.
That's true. New York is also so big going out to Long Island, but before Long Island, just everywhere in greater Brooklyn or greater Queens is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always, you never get bored. This is why you got to get a bike. Because when you're riding a bike in Brooklyn, it's like so cool. Especially, when you just, when you're old enough to drink and you have a bicycle in Brooklyn, it's like,
yeah, I know.
You could literally make a whole day out of it. You could just I'm just going to take my bike out. Meet a lot of people. There's a group ride this Friday that I want to go to. Mm-hmm. It's the Monster Track Prom.
Where is it?
It's at the big Pepsi Cola sign by Long Island City. That's where it starts, and then it ends at some bar in Brooklyn, in Williamsburg, probably, or Bushwick or something probably not too far from you where you live. Actually, my plan was I was thinking of riding, just shoving my bike in my car, parking at your place, and then riding to the meetup spot. And then
that would be perfectly acceptable.
Cool. And then afterwards, I can meet back up and then see what you're up to. What do you do on Fridays?
Depends. Usually I go out.
Is Friday your rest day?
Yeah. Usually, rest day, it's usually a day. Friday is usually the day I'm out till 4 a.m.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sundays.
That's usually only once or twice a week for me.
Wow, that's fucked up. It's fucked up for me because I'm thinking I'm already thinking of hanging out with, socializing with people as work. So it's Sunday's my one day where I don't socialize, I don't do anything, I don't hang out with people. I'm just if anything, Sunday is my editing day.
That makes sense.
That's what it used to be. Sundays used to be the day I would edit all the podcast episodes, but now, whenever we record, I just edit the next day, and then I just release it right away. I realize there's no need to sit on content anymore. I'll just pump it out as often. And I think people appreciate that, honestly, because they're it makes it more Makes it feel like they're more in the room with us every time, you know? If they're closer and more up to date with us.
Up to date with us, up to date with us being done, recorded.
It's basically like, all right, listen, like it's Terrorisk doesn't talk about like the most important shit all the time. Sometimes we downright degrade ourselves and everyone else. But it's just, or denigrate, I should say. So, but really,
no, it's degrading being on this podcast.
no, denigrate. We denigrate a lot of things because it's fun. It's fun, especially when you do it, when you have like somewhat of a decent proficiency with words and you're able to like really effectively denigrate things, and you could do it in an entertaining way that can educate, that can entertain
What if
you.
instead of saying denigrate things, we could say that we really rape things?
Oh, yeah, that's the Mongolian blood in me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have that strong Altaic face.
Yeah. But we do that. And despite that, like, I think consistency is what really builds the brand. I mean, if you're willing to keep your shit together, and you could evolve, but if you're willing to like just do it in a natural, organic way, and you're still having fun with it, and it's like releasing a zine, which is always cool. You know, that's what podcasting is to me. It's kind of like, you know, an audible zine.
That's a nice description. And that's also a reason to go with the multimedia format, much like a zine.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, I like this a lot. Also gives validity to the future or the continuation of podcasting as a medium.
Well,
Whoa! Oh, I see. You have an entire box of papers there. I was wondering what you were getting up to grab as you were putting your headphones back on. Right?
Oh no, this is just a box full of my
Amazon weed paraphernalia or smoking paraphernalia.
Yeah, it's I collect different papers.
Yeah.
And just in case I run out, sometimes like I'll get extras, and like just use my extras, and so I'll always have like a copy of something I don't have.
Yeah.
But yeah,
as you rotate through.
This is my hobby, guys. I have a box
full of different rolling
papers, and I collect rolling papers. I don't know. It's like, to me, it was like collecting stamps.
Yeah.
You know, it's like some people collect stamps. I collect rolling papers. You know, like I got all sorts of shit in there. I got like all the bamboos. I got some Bob Marley papers. I got all the raw papers. I even got a raw hat. Can you reach behind that monitor?
Okay, hold on.
And just get the baseball cap thing there. Yeah, give me that.
Raw.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shows your preference for raw sex.
No, it's from the papers.
Yeah.
The rolling papers. And you know what's cool about these
What's
hats?
that?
So this raw hat is it's fucking rolling paper. I'm such a stoner.
Yeah,
but
you are. Yeah.
But look at the bill. It has this little attachment. You use this to pack in your weed.
Well, that's fitting for a stoner hat.
Yeah. It's cool. I've never seen that before. So yeah, this is
You should just put the word sex underneath it. Raw sex.
Do you think
From the brim?
Do you think I should just hit up this company and be like, "Yo, listen,
Yes, actually, you should.
I present your product every single podcast episode." I mean, like, even if people don't buy raw papers because of me, like, just me doing the podcast is giving you business. Yeah, I'm a big fan of raw papers, raw guys. My specific favorite raw type, like, there's the classic raw blacks. Well, first there's the classic raw papers. They come in like a brown box, like that's the color of this hat actually, almost. But then there's the raw blacks. They come in this black box, and I think they're
much larger.
Well, all the papers come in the small, like this size, and then this size. So this one, I don't know, the texture of it and the glue, the way it sticks, I don't like it. I'm not a fan of this. My preferred one is this one. It's raw black, but made of organic hemp, and it just looks like your standard like raw ram stick sized cardboard cartridge, just spitting out like rolling papers. But the hemp, this stuff is just primo to roll with, because it's like it's got
you should get the endorsement first, the sponsorship, before you're endorsed. Well, I guess this is part of it. Your sales pitch to the raw company.
You're right. I could just show them a clip of this and show them how much I actually
how much I interrupted you during it.
Well, no, I was gonna say how much I actually engage with this product. And the raw hemps, the organic hemp raw blacks, these actually, like, how do I describe it? All right, so if you ever like look at paper, like just regular paper, like loose leaf paper, it's hard to like kind of like get a grip, like when you're sushi rolling it, right? But when you think of something like a dollar bill, like because technically a dollar bill isn't actually paper, it's like cloth, right?
It probably is cotton or something, right?
Who picks that cotton?
I'm showing. Yep, exactly. Niggas.
No.
Sorry, Mexicans.
Well, they used to pick that cotton. Now it's probably Chinese people or Vietnamese people.
I bet it's El Salvadorans or like Guatemalans.
Yeah, but dollar bills are made of cloth.
Yeah, just look at how it rolls. I mean, it's also thicker, but
Yeah, but these are organic hemp raws, the blacks.
so rolling it Coke wise like this.
Yeah, exactly. So you would never like imagine how much harder it is
To do it with, well, that's much thinner of a paper. But yeah, I think this is also a cotton weave something or another.
Yeah, or to make like a Coke straw out of loose leaf, it sucks. Whereas out of a dollar bill, it's just perfect. It's because when it rolls, it's got that grip. It's got that slight, just enough grippiness. It's got this like alive feeling, organic feeling, you know? As opposed to just like dead, refined, pressed wood that's like very slippery and slick. It's probably better for writing on, but when it comes to like rolling, you want that grip. You want that grippiness. And yeah, you best believe I rolled hella joints and smoked hella weed for me to go on a rant this fucking long about like rolling papers. I've rolled many papers, and so far my favorite brand as a professional roller. Yes, I'm a professional. Well, I don't know. Does anyone have? Yeah, except for I think the only professional roller in this world is Snoop Dogg's professional joint roller.
Well, you're a fantastic roller from all the rolling you've done in your life.
Of course, yeah. That's practice makes perfect. Literally, it's like muscle memory.
Now, I'm looking at our bills. I don't mean to distract you. What if Trump wants to trigger hyperinflation so that $1,000 bill comes into common usage?
And Trump gets to be on it.
But yeah, exactly.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Like we get rid of cents and we just have dollar. Like we become like the yen.
Denominations. That's all it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it could work. I mean, I could see it. Although the yen is weird because like you would think like $1,000 equals a dollar, right? That for some reason that feels right. Whereas $100 equaling a dollar, it doesn't feel right. And yet
well, you just add 2 zeros to the amount, right? With the yen.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean, give or take, like
I get the give or take, but basically it's that.
Yeah, that kind of denomination. Yeah. So, it's weird to me. It's like people like when someone says like 400 yen for a ramen, what the fuck are you talking? Like for a cup ramen, what the fuck are you talking about? Like how is that expensive? But then I think about it, it's like, oh, that's like $4. Or it's also like denominations like 400 are in coins. So imagine having like a fucking $4 coin. It's weird.
It basically is 1 yen is comparable to 1 cent. Not exactly, but in your conception of things.
I guess so. But it's still weird, like might as well just. But it's also the weird how they have like so many coins for the yen. So it's like they have like a 400 yen coin that's like a $4 coin. That's like
yeah. It's like how in Canada they have $2 bills in common usage.
Yeah, which actually might be so fun.
And $1 coins or $2 coins too, loonies and toonies.
That's so weird. Honestly, $2 bills and $2 coins must be so fucking useful, though. Where'd you get that cigarette, eh? Oh, that little stand in there for a couple of toonies. You're gonna get one, eh?
Making them a little bit more Irish than they are, but
Okay.
yeah.
You're gonna get one, eh?
Yeah, that much better, much better.
Yeah, I think it costs a couple of loonies. Or a couple of toonies. Couple of toonies, eh?
A boat and all that. I'm not mistaken for Canadian very often, thankfully, perhaps.
None of us are.
Yeah.
Canadians are mistaken for Americans.
Yeah.
Don't get it twisted, man. It's like, nah, they mistake Canadians for us, not the other way around. Although that must be a good point of pride where it's like, are you American? It's like, no, I'm fucking Canadian, bitch. Like from Toronto. Best basketball team on the continent. Yeah, okay.
What, the Raptors?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that, but as a Toronto and as a Torontonian, I would be like, yeah. Being a Torontonian probably isn't even that bad. It's probably pretty cool. The winters are just slightly suckier, but
I liked Toronto a lot when I went there 15 years ago.
yeah, me too.
I had a wonderful time. It's like a Disneyland version of New York City.
Yeah, it's a little more punkier. It's a little more Native American.
It's safer, cleaner, etc.
Yeah.
While also being that. I don't know about it anymore, but they used to have an ironic. Everything had like an innocence that New York doesn't have.
Yeah. It's a naive city.
It was
Actually,
very fun to walk around while there when I was young.
Yeah, it is a very naive city. Toronto reminds me more of like Philadelphia, actually.
Interesting. I could see that. I've never been to Philly though.
Never?
Never.
Ooh. That'll be a fun drive. I'm planning some long drives. I would like to.
Mm-hmm.
I think this summer is going to be fucking crazy, man.
I think so too.
I think it's going to be a little bonkers. There's a lot of shit I got to get done.
Yeah.
Springtime is already pretty hectic, honestly. It's tax season, then like I gotta get a lot of money together and just pay Uncle Sam so he could let me live in this country.
I was sorry.
Wait, what?
Sorry.
About
I was
what?
checking something to see if someone had texted me. Never mind.
No, you're good, man. You
Okay.
do whatever you fucking want. We're not
cool.
This
Forgive
isn't
me for being. Nah, don't forgive me. I will be sheepish.
this
or
isn't
not.
this isn't a concentration camp.
We're gonna send attention deficit brain fried Zoomers to concentration camps so they're able to read books again.
Yeah. I think have you been journaling a lot still?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I've been doing it irregularly,
Irregularly.
but consistently.
No, it's good. It's
Like
good.
every third day.
As long as you're fucking doing it, man. And I mean, do you at least feel like you're more conscious of your own thoughts?
Yeah. Particularly the repetitious nature of them.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of repetitive thoughts.
Yeah, you're like,
which
and then
reminds
you
me,
look at yourself writing, and you're like, "This is
I'm
like,
just doing this again and again and again.
that's what I noticed," and it's not always a bad thing.
Mhm.
It's like, well, I'm thinking about exactly what I should be thinking about, honestly, at this point. Like, sometimes it's like, God damn it, I keep fixating on this. It's like, at least you know that you're fixating on it. It's
Yeah.
better than not, it's okay to fixate on it. At least you know you are. Because that's half the battle.
Yes, it's true. It is weird. It does give gives perspective for that, though. I've done it before. Though I've thought of these things before, seeing it written down physically, day after day, of similar repetitive thoughts is better perspective than trying to stop myself in the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Makes perfect sense.
And gives sense of the trend lines.
No, I totally agree. And yeah, I appreciate journaling a lot. It did a lot for me, which is why I'm so adamant about spreading it. Because I'm like, I don't know, it's so accessible, and it's not like our needs have changed as a human species. Like we no longer need like newer tech. We have new tech now. It's like we have to like balance it out, and then once we balance it out properly, then we can extend our reach again, and then we go back to balancing it out further. It's oscillation. So I'm saying like the more retarded we get with this new shit, this new high tech gay commie shit, we should also equally go back at the same time to like old school conservative boomer shit.
There's a lot to be said for doing things physically, manually, in traditional ways, as we mentioned before.
Yeah.
Even just you rolling tobacco, rolling blunts, not blunts, spliffs, as opposed to using vape pens,
Carts.
cards, robo penises.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm definitely old school about a lot of things, and this just goes back to something I said before. I said traditions are just solutions to problems we forgot.
Yes, a very good line and very true.
You want me to roll the cigarette for you?
Yeah, yeah, I do so. Because otherwise, you're right. Otherwise, I'm going to spend. I'll hit that.
Hold
yes.
that. Well, I mean, I'm not really worried about running out. I have like a box full of fucking.
No, I know you're not worried about running out. But you're right. I'll take half an hour trying to do it and fail, and then you'll do it anyway. So
I like collecting rolling papers though. It's fun. And if I like go to like another state like Jersey or Pennsylvania, like I'll be sure to like try to find something I can't get in New York. Like I said, it's like collecting stamps.
yeah, papers from around the world or around the country.
Yeah, or postcards.
Yeah.
Around the world would be the best.
When you look at ashtrays, you can see how a bunch of elements were designed for use indoors. And now most people don't smoke indoors, so
Yeah, it's a shame. I miss bars, or I miss when you could smoke in restaurants.
yeah, I never experienced it. Or I do have no recollection.
I remember when I was a kid, I go into restaurants and then they're like smoking or non-smoking.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Do you remember that?
No, I don't. Even though I know it existed when I was a child, none of the restaurants we ever went into were like that. Everything had already changed in Maine.
Did you ever see Miss Doubtfire?
Yes,
You remember the scene?
as a
It was-
boy.
you remember it's like smoking or non-smoking, and then they were like non-smoking, and then Miss Doubtfire was like smoking. That was funny. Robin Williams is a fantastic actor.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
I mean, the whole
Suicide.
the movie that was really prescient for me.
World's Greatest Dad.
Man of the Year.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Did you see that movie?
Yes.
Dude, watch it again. Especially with like
Because of Trump, but it's
Yeah.
also a bizarre movie because half of it is a comedy and then half of it is
like a political thriller,
like a shitty 70s political thriller.
like a conspiracy movie.
Yeah, it's a really bizarre tonal shift. And it does not, thank you, it does not work well for the movie at all. It's fascinating, but it's,
It does seem very Trump-esque though.
I mean, yes, though he's playing not Trump, he's playing a very sedated, toned down Jon Stewart.
Like Bill Maher, maybe.
Not as edgy, but yes, exactly, that kind of figure. And
See-
but also like a Jay Leno type, someone who's a real hack comedian.
Yo, you see how these burn differently though? They're like it's like softer. It's like it's less
Yes.
like it's less like paper and more like very thin flesh of like or like very thin leaf. It's got this softness to it. You know, that makes it feel less like pressed paper and more
Yeah.
like some fabric, smokable fabric. I like it.
The fabric being hemp.
Organic hemp papers, everyone. I highly recommend it. If you're a joint smoker like me, if you're a person who makes life hard for yourself and not use a bong and you just like to roll shit and
Do you have an aversion to bongs or what?
no, I own a bong. I should get another one actually. It just bongs don't flow the same way to me.
That's true, especially over a long period of time.
You can't. It's like easier to pass a joint. It's nicer. You can mix tobacco easier with a joint. I mean, you could do it with a bong, but it's
Yeah,
like,
it's rough. A mole bowl is very rough in a bong.
yeah. But I mean, I do like bongs. I've taken some fun bong hits before, and it's just it would be a waste. You know, like I would get just as high smoking a bunch of joints as I would off of like massive bong hits. My tolerance is just that fucking high. I mean, the only time it would get really bad is if we were doing like huge wax rips. Like
Yeah.
actually not even huge wax, like just dabs would get me fucked up. Like really fucked. Because that's just with anyone. You know, dabs are just that bad. In fact, I think by the time you build a tolerance to dabs, you're already fried. Like you're not the same person. Like you're not. Your brain isn't the same. You know what? You've seen
Yes,
people.
I have. Dabs, I don't know. That I've never smoked hashish. I've never done dabs.
Really?
Really, I'm sure both of them would like beat my ass.
Yeah,
now.
they
Really would fuck me up now. Whereas in my 20s, I would have been able to handle it.
Yeah.
But now I'm fuck.
Honestly,
My
though-
20s, though, I should have done it because I probably would have been able to effortlessly handle it.
Well, I'll say this about dabs. As a chronic pot smoker since I was like 14 years old, dabs are probably the only way I could get that stoned, that like truly like blasted stone feeling. Because
Yeah.
you've seen me smoke blunt after blunt
Yes.
after blunt after blunt after blunt, and I'm like fine. You know, it's like weed is really like that to me. But when I do dabs, it's like it's like getting so used to coke and then suddenly being introduced to crack. Like suddenly you get a little more yipped up, you know?
Yeah.
Same with like dabs for me. It's like I could smoke weed after weed pretty much, but give me dabs, give me some like hits off of a rig and I will get wasted. Which is why I don't like it. In fact, I don't even mind having a high tolerance to weed.
I used to be much more tolerant, but I was also just younger. And also just not smoking as much.
Yeah. Also, I noticed my tolerance for alcohol grew a lot.
Yeah, it does.
But you know what? It's like, luckily, I'm not trying to chase getting fucked up. You know, like I think that's why I've always been good. Like I've been always okay with a high tolerance for these things because I'm like, in fact, it's more entertaining. Like maybe this sounds a little fucked up, but like you know, it's more entertaining when like my friends take me drinking, and they don't have as high of a tolerance, and then they just like keep going on and on. And eventually, they're just fucked up, and I'm like pretty lucid, and then I'm just watching everything unfold, and I'm like, yeah, people. It's like going to a house party sober. You know, you're literally gonna be the smartest person in the fucking room.
Yeah. Which is a nice experience, but you want to be, you just want a few drinks to reduce anxiety and then be sober enough that you're smarter than everyone else.
Pretty much. Which is always fun. I mean, if I want, but alcohol is different though. If I wanted to get like really wasted, I could probably bring myself to that point easily. I've been drunk enough where it's like I definitely couldn't drive. I could like trip easily when I walk, but I haven't gotten so drunk in a long time. Like I haven't gotten so drunk where I was like getting the spins and I was throwing up. You know, like alcohol poisoning. You ever have that?
Yeah. Drunk enough that I vomited. Got the spins.
Yeah, that sucks.
I've gotten drunk, wasted plenty of times in my life.
I haven't had the spins in a while, in a minute, and I drank a lot. Like I've been drinking a lot.
I usually vomit. I either am fine or if I'm getting fucked up, I now just know to go and vomit and then I feel fine. It's become a lot. I used to be very averse to vomiting. Now I'm very fine with vomiting whenever I feel sick.
Yeah, it's because it's easy to do. Yeah, and then you just wash your hands in the bar bathroom, stare at the graffiti a bit.
Yeah.
Then look at your fucked up reflection and say, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, I drink some water. I stop drinking for a few hours, like an hour or two, and then I have another drink.
And if you're lucky, you could get your hands on a $1 slice of pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
And just fill your, and then it's like, and in fact, after that, you could drink 12 more drinks. You know, it's like, hey, I could go till like fucking 6
Yeah, same. I could definitely do that. Yes.
Yep. It's the beauty of being an experienced drinker. But luckily, like I think it's like, okay, so that's the phase. The first phase is being an experienced drinker. The second phase of fucking you up, of getting really fucked up, is what are you running from? If you become an experienced drinker and you're not running from anything, you're fine. You're good. You know, you could just be the guy, like one of the boys. Just drink and have drinks and we're fine. We go to work the next day, we do our shit and whatever. But then let's say you go through some shit, let's say something happens to you, let's say you're stressed out long enough about something big enough constantly, like then you start using it as a escape. And that's another big problem, you know? You don't strike me as the kind of person who ever used alcohol as an escape.
I did at one point.
But I don't think you really leaned on it that heavily. I think you'd be more likely to use like books and like racist philosophy, you know, to like.
Yeah, I get into intellectual masturbation, I suppose.
That's still a lot better than, you know, like using straight up alcohol and just to forget everything. Like
gain less weight this way.
That's true. Also, it's like it's good to try to rationalize, even though like that's reaching its limits, especially now in our generation at this point in time in our era. Its rationalization is kind of like losing its losing its power. Sadly enough.
Mm.
Yo, there's one more 24. That's yours, right?
Yeah.
You want to split that?
Yes, I do.
All right. Now we're closing off the episode with one final. Oh, this flavor's so gay, blackberry.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's my fault.
Yeah, I didn't get it. I don't think.
Yeah. I picked out most of the flavors. Yeah,
19.2 fluid ounces.
Dude, not even that. Look at the calorie count. It's 170 calories per one of these like tall boys. These things are like a superfood.
Yeah.
I love it. You know, like I mean, yes, like a lot of my friends, especially like my punk friends, they shout on me for drinking White Claw, and I'm like, fuck you.
No, you were ahead of the times, and you're correct to do so.
Dude, it's perfect.
It's light. It's refreshing.
It's clean, and it's
made pure is just a wonderful marketing move.
Honestly,
It
like
doesn't mean anything. It was just
if it didn't have any like flavoring, I would still drink it.
yeah, made pure, unique brew pure process. And only the finest flavors deliver a bold wave of pure refreshment and a hard seltzer like no other. White Claw Surge hard
It's
seltzer.
beautiful, man. It
is.
It's a beautiful product. I'm not going to say it's a work of art. It's definitely far from a work of art. However, it's a perfect product. Like if you told me like what's the perfect way to package like alcohol to like get people like, you know, saucy, it's that. That's the way. That's the way to fucking do it. It's perfect. I love it.
Yeah, it's a lovely piece.
My dream sponsors would be Raw Papers and White Claw, and also Natural American Spirit.
American Spirits, yeah. Not this odor neutralizing candle. This Nag Champa.
It creates odors.
Yeah.
It just creates the Nag Champa odor. I like it. I like this.
I do too.
It's growing on me. Although, like, I call this the thinking candle. Like every time we do a podcast, every time I have to like fucking study, every time I have to like write shit down, journal, I always light the candle. And now it's like a Pavlovian response. Every time the candle is lit, it's like my focus is locked. I forgot where I learned that trick from, but it works. Like it worked really well.
Yeah, I mean, people need rituals. Same thing with like journaling, right?
And
It's a ritual.
Yeah,
you have it with your morning coffee.
And there's something powerful about fire, like as in, you know, incorporated
yes.
into your ritual, like a campfire or a candle or something, you know, like a lantern. So get a candle, man. You know what? I'll get you a candle.
I have a candle actually in my room. I'll light it.
Yeah. Light every time you journal, light the candle.
Yeah.
The Jews were onto something, man.
They often are.
Exactly. It's true. They often
We love
are.
the Jews. The Terrorisk podcast is a philo-Semitic podcast.
Of course. I mean, this podcast wouldn't exist if it weren't for the Jews.
Yeah.
I work for Jews. Proudly funded by Jews. Okay, so I know there's a lot of anti-Semites that might be fans of Terrorisk, and I'm sorry to tell you that I'm a worker of a Jewish company, and you know, my boss isn't the most like polite man, isn't the most like emotionally stable
Or tactful. It sounds like he's a vulgar shuttle billy.
I don't know what Shuttle Billy?
He's a working class Russian Jew.
I think he's German.
Really? Okay, damn.
Yeah.
He's from a working class background?
I think it's a mix. I don't know. His last name is Braun.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, interesting. Curious to see if it is a mixed marriage. Like his mother is a lot more the nanny kind of
I do know
situation.
that no one in his family is like him. Everyone in his family is like they're normal.
Respectable. Maybe it's just, you know.
I mean, respectable aside, like they're earnest, normal. Dare I say it, humble people. He is the one who's like
They're humble Jews. He's an arrogant Jew.
beyond arrogant. I think I would say like just straight up like
Manic.
not even. Well, what does it mean when you're manic and competent?
Yes, that's fair.
Like when you're both manic and you have ability and resources. Like what is that? What is
Hard
that?
driving, competent. Yes.
I don't know. He's like type. I guess I could just say type A.
Yes, this type A works.
He's just a very type A guy, but a very intelligent type A guy. He's almost like a product of, he's like a freak of nature. No, not, I shouldn't say a freak of nature, like kind of like a natural outcome of nature. It's like after X and X amounts of like breeding, generational breeding, and
It's the
economic
eugenics
factors.
project. The
God-
ultimate pushy Jew.
God's eugenics project.
Yeah, God's chosen person, God's chosen people.
Yeah. The Uber Jew.
Yes.
The Uber Jewchen. Yeah, that explains him pretty much.
Yeah. Ooh, interesting. Yeah, the Uber Juden.
I mean, like he kind of he the archetype he fits the greatest would be like one of the kings. And I know they were all flawed, but they were all great. Like
David.
Yeah.
Solomon.
Solomon, yeah.
Wise.
Yeah. I mean, that's first of all, that's supposed to be what marks the Jews. It's the direct bloodline lineage with Solomon, with David, you know?
The tribes of Judah.
So if you ever see, and like that's what whenever I look at him, that's the vibe I get. Like you know, it's like I get the kind of Jew. It's like David and Solomon type shit. You know,
I
it's
see.
like,
I see.
It's terrifying. It's not always good. It
Does
doesn't
he
make
spend a lot of time in Israel?
no.
Not at all
Oh,
interesting.
me?
No, him.
Of course,
Your boss.
He went to Birthright, definitely.
Yeah, but besides that.
Yeah, I think he did go to Israel like a bit, like
A lot for vacationing or for personal. That makes sense.
work. Yeah, activities, legally gray activities. Yeah, I mean the only reason why I don't mind at least mentioning his name is because like he's already in papers. He's already been in like Bloomberg.
Yeah.
He's already been in.
I guess connecting you to your employment is probably better not to in general.
Yeah, I suppose.
Nothing gained.
But the truth is,
not
at
much
least,
likely to lose.
But
still.
I could also say the truth, which is I'm just a paper pusher. You know, I'm just a very competent paper pusher. I'm not significant. I don't make sales. I don't convince people. I don't source clients. I don't do any of that. All I do is just push paper, and I'm just happen to be really good at it. And I think my boss just likes me because I'm not greedy.
You're paper pushing prints him paper.
Like the samurai.
Yeah.
It's like I am the shogun. I do all the dastardly things. You just go and kill whoever I need you to kill. Slay that paperwork. I mean, there was a lot.
As during the Tokugawa.
Yeah, there was a lot of samurai who literally did nothing.
Yeah.
Like who did nothing but paperwork. They were like,
It's fascinating how Japan underwent its own alternative industrial revolution.
well, it's also interesting. I mean, when you consider like the samurai class, even like in its heyday, but also like towards its end, no matter what, like as a samurai, you weren't just a guy that was good at killing people. You also knew how to read. You also knew how to write.
Yeah.
You knew how like
Calligraphy, poetry.
money works. You know, you knew how trading worked. Like you knew how like you even had contact sometimes with like international traders. You know, like you were a true professional, like an actual like competent person. That's what it meant. It wasn't just a warrior, you know?
Yeah.
Which is why you had a lot of like samurai who were terrible at fighting, but
We're great bureaucrats. Many that happened with Ottoman Janissaries, a bunch of other people in a similar class.
yeah. I wonder what kind of samurai I would have been if I was a Japanese man born in that era. Would I have been like
I would have been a paper pusher.
I think I would have been I would like to say I would have been like an instructor of some kind. Like I train like young
Yeah.
swords because that's what I feel most comfortable doing. It's like I was taught this way and I'm good at transmitting the way I was taught exactly as it was taught to me. You know, because that's what got me good. So of course it's going to be tattooed into my brain. Like it's like muscle memory for me. So it's like, yeah.
Are you a fan of Shogun 2 Total War?
The game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, same, though I haven't played in a very long time.
It was like a Dynasty Warrior style real-time strategy.
No,
game.
it's not Dynasty Warrior style. It has pause. It's a Total War game, so it's moving a bunch of troops around.
Like a para.
It's not like an action
Was it like
game.
no? I was gonna say
Beat
like
'em up.
like Dynasty Warriors animated, but real-time strategy kind of.
I mean, a difference of 1,300 years. If
What's
you mean
your-
it's in East Asia.
What's your favorite real-time strategy game?
Depends on whether Total War type games or Paradox games count as real-time strategy, because both rely, particularly in single player, very heavily on pause. I guess Warcraft 3 for a proper traditional RTS.
It was exciting too. It told a good story, a great story actually.
And the maps were incredible in a point of time.
Yeah.
When Dota 1 was around.
What about second place?
Obviously, like StarCraft, but I never played.
Damn,
I played it as a
StarCraft?
kid.
I'm surprised.
I never
Like,
played it
I'm
multiplayer.
surprised you haven't mentioned like Age of Empires.
I played Age of Empires as a boy.
Every boy had to have
Yeah.
played Age of Empires.
As I got older, I really fell in love with Paradox Interactive games.
Yeah,
but
because that's just like
those
that's
are
the
grand
next.
strategy games, so you spend a lot of time paused, looking things over, mulling it over. They're very relaxing.
Very immersive.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas Age of Empires was kind of stressful. You know.
Total War games get tedious, alternating between the real-time battles and the turn-based gameplay.
Yeah. No, I like Paradox games. Those are fun.
Yeah.
But Age of Empires has that.
What's your favorite Paradox game?
Stellaris?
Stellaris?
That's the one I played the most. Stellaris.
Sci-fi one, yeah. I really love
But I'm pretty sure the best one is the King Age of King or whatever.
Crusader Kings?
Crusader Kings, yeah.
I haven't played Crusader Kings 3. I've played a lot of Europa Universalis 3 and 4.
I'm pretty sure that's the best one. Like you could do outrageous things in that. Like you could like start like your clan of like you could exploit some glitch to like marry a horse and you make like horse babies.
That's in Crusader Kings.
Yeah.
It's not a glitch so much as an inside joke.
It's good. It's a good inside joke.
Or rather just a reference to Caligula, I think.
But I do like Stellaris. It's a good one because the space battles are always fun to watch. It's like, haha, I'm invading your shit or I'm blowing up your
Stellaris
fleet.
is the most visually interesting.
Yeah,
It's the most like a Civilization, Masters of Orion, Sins of the not Sins of the Solar Empire.
also it's got clever mechanics. Like things like Crusader Kings relies heavily on the time differentials. It's like you have to wait for your analog mobile army, whereas in Stellaris you had like, oh, your warp drive is charged up for your entire fleet, and you just go from like one point that would take you a long time to traverse. Like that's fun.
I wonder if I can play if I could play multiplayer with you using a pirated copy of Stellaris.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be fun. Do you have Steam?
Yeah, I do. Maybe I just have to buy the base.
You know what I
game
also
and
like
then-
about Stellaris is it's really not mechanically demanding of your PC. It's a really straightforward. It's just a good game. It's a solid game.
Yeah.
I love it. I love Stellaris. I'll never delete it because there's a lot of games that are taking up hard drive space, but Stellaris is like the one that I just weirdly want to keep because I already got like expansions for it, and like I want to keep them, and it's just I'm not gonna lose them if I delete the game, but still, it's like. I like it. It's fun to have, if I really just want to like not think about shit, it's like just invest a whole day into a game. Stellaris, you could easily.
Yeah, Paradox games. I feel that way about Europa Universalis too. Have I told you about
That's a good game. Yeah.
I told you about my favorite mod for it.
No.
It's a fantasy mod called Ambinar. That it has pretty bad linguistics, bad language. I mean like the names of nations, of cultures are lame, and it's very much a generic fantasy world, but it's very richly detailed in a lot of ways.
Like
due to the-
narratively.
Yeah, a lot of different nations have narrative styles. They have a lot of there's a bunch of mechanics in vanilla Europa Universalis
Yeah.
that no one really uses because they're for like Aboriginals or for Northern Native Americans. And it's just not as fun as the mechanics built around old world Eurasian countries. Like, frankly, in EU4, the funnest places to play are Europe through East Asia.
You ever heard of like Victoria?
Yes,
That's a great one.
I've played 2. I haven't played 3, but I've played Victoria 2. Ambinar uses a bunch of these mechanics in other venues and using this high fantasy world. I find it a superior version. I find it superior to the base game.
I think Victoria. I was impressed with Victoria. It's like such a specific
3 or 2.
3. Well, the whole series is actually very because like
I haven't played 3.
it focuses on like a very specific niche thing.
Yeah, it does.
And it's impressive. It's like it's great.
19th century nationalism.
It's the perfect type of game for a specific kind of like insufferable nerd,
Yes, it
political
is.
nerd. It's so good.
It is, because political nerds are often LARPing 19th and early 20th century.
Exactly. They fantasize about living in France and being able to go to cafes and having their souls moved by some like politically minded speaker.
Yeah.
Solipsist.
Hearts of Iron 4 is same with ideology, and it's less economically based and more combat based because of the World War II setting.
I'm actually excited for the future. I think like
Yeah, I am too.
you know what we're doing now. It's the same thing. You know, it's like sitting in a cafe, small audience, but you're saying like potent shit because you really feel it. You know,
Yes.
same thing. And there's a network of these cafes back then. Just as there's a network of podcasts.
There's something about the physical location, but yes.
I mean, what's great is like we get to set our own physical locations.
Yes, that's true.
All right, so I have plans. All right.
Yeah.
So guys, if you're watching, this far ahead, in a pretty long episode, I might add,
Yeah.
which we're gonna finish up soon after this is over. But like, we're probably gonna end up with a different shot. I'm gonna get some beanbag chairs, not beanbag chairs, like actual like floor style, but big poofy like things you could sink into.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna have the mics, and we're gonna be comfier, and
It would be good for using this place for entertaining, regardless.
that's true. Just to chill, like a hangout spot. Yeah. And then we'll do that, and it'll be fine, and it'll be fun. And I gotta get like a new smart TV set up. Like this thing is ancient. I think you know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna ride this out for the rest of the year, and I'm just gonna wait till Black Friday.
Yeah. And get a new, larger TV. TVs are so cheap now and such high quality.
Yeah. Oh man, it would be nice if I don't know. It's like every time it's like I always like entertain the idea of having a roommate again, but I'm like, fuck that. Like,
Yeah, and loneliness, but at the same time having to deal with another person.
well, it's not even having to deal with another person. It's just having your own. You could go insane in your own home. Like where there's no one else living there.
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to, I could just destroy everything, and like no one would really say anything about it. It's a liberating feeling.
It is. It is. It's just you and Chomchi.
Yeah, mochi.
Mochi, fuck.
I could just sell everything, get rid of everything. All right, so plans. Before we finish up, we got to say, let's get you a bike.
Give me a bike. Let's go bicycling around Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It has to be Brooklyn for the most part after I get confident with it, because there's just more to see.
Well, there's a lot of parks in Brooklyn.
Yeah, and also, I've come out here often enough. I should drag you out to Brooklyn more often.
Hells yeah, I'll go. I'll come
Yeah.
out. You never do.
I never do. You're right. It's my fault.
But then again, no, it's not even that. It's the times. It's
Yeah.
like Sovereign House is closing down
Yeah,
pretty soon, I might add.
it is.
All right, well, with that,
Have a wonderful night, everyone.
yeah, nighty night.